Hi, stream 254. Only two more streams until we break the 8-bit barrier, so to speak. All right. So yesterday, I was working on this feature where we want to track when players consent to our site's terms of service and privacy policy, and I didn't finish it. So I got a lot of the underlying mechanics done, but this main thing with the dialogue that should show up when we update our policies to show the player that something has changed and that we need them to consent again, we're not finished with that. So these are the elements of it. We need to have a message from the client back to the server when they've checked the box and hit submit. And until then, we don't want to allow any client messages to the server, so that we basically don't want them to be able to play the game until they've agreed to our policies, right? And the message to the server when the client gives consent needs to be turned into a command that's executed to complete the login. Hey there, Nui. How are you doing today? And some supplementary things. I want to have controls in the GM versions panel so that I can easily bump up the version of the policies. And I want to see in the players list who has consented to the policies. Although I suppose I don't really need to do that now that I think about it. Whenever I change the policy version, in order for someone to fully log in, they have to consent, right? Actually, but I won't know if they fully consented, even if they've logged in. So I should probably keep that. All right. And then if I'm done with this work today, I have a secret project that I might work on stream. A secret project. We'll see. If I remember right, where I left off was I had a provide consent command that I needed to add. I think that was here. If I just hit F8, if it would just, if F8 would just work. Not working. It's not working. I have to build or something. Hey there, Romania. Remastered? No, not quite, Nui. Is it going Romania? How come? I could have sworn that's the name of it. Consent? Am I in the correct project? Okay. Oh, was it policy consent? Yeah, okay. It's policy, not provide was policy. There we go. Why does F8 not? Okay, now F8 works. That's weird. So yeah, we were inventing these game commands, policy consent, and that's where I left off yesterday. Hey there, A squared 31415. I like pie. How are you doing? Okay, so when we create a command like that, in order to get it to all integrate in, I need to go into the commands here and make a new one. And let's just take an existing command and duplicate it. And we'll call it policy consent. And just rename everything here. I believe I just need to change the comment here, and the only thing I really need to include is the player ID. Okay, I actually didn't have that in that command. Here, I have it here, though. Let's just copy that and paste it here. Overall, that stuff. This represents a server command which is used to record the fact that a player has consented to latest versions of the game's terms of service and privacy policy. All right, and then we'll have source file to match it. Policy consent. And then we just need player ID, which is an int. We don't need anything else. And so it's very simple. These classes are extremely simple. They would probably be replaced at some point by an ASN 1.1 structure or something similar. Basically a serializable structure. Okay, so I got to add it to our makefile. Here we go. Policy consent HPP. And then, hey there, code and more. Am I going to Area 51? No. And if I was, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Let's see, policy consent. And then we should have matching unit tests for this. So, command tests, let me add it at the end. Yeah, these unit tests usually come in sets of 3. So there's a create, an encode, and a get type. And they all match. Policy consent. And then, yeah, usually I just keep it simple. So player ID, whatever number, I don't care, as long as it's something. And then that is the encoding. And just expect that we get it back out there. And then same thing here. Expect that the encoding is like that. Okay, and there's a header file that pulls together all of the structure definitions. That is in commands here. Policy consent, and then one more thing is in the main program. There's a factory method call, factory function call to pull in the marshalling code. Here it is. So I just need that for policy consent. And then build it. Secret. Only Area 51 can be used to make secret projects. Is that why? Maybe we'll be going there later this stream. I cannot confirm nor deny it. I'm hesitant to do the secret project on stream because it involves moderating the stream. So if I started to do it on stream, I would probably just be encouraging or making worse the original problem that requires, or that I feel requires more work moderating the channel. So I thought about it today. If I put it in the stream title, I would just be asking to be attacked. There are some people now storming Area 51. Well, let's see if they can get in. It's notoriously secretive. In fact, don't tell anyone this, but the real secrets are in Area 52. We just tell people they're in Area 51, so when they show up there, we know who they are, and then we bust them back home, and they never find out where the real secrets are. Okay. I want to look for a command test. I want to run these tests. They should, I think, pass because I really did it all at once. Let's see. Let's just run all of the commands tests because they run really quickly. Okay, cool. Cool. So back where we were using it. I totally forget where that is. Oh, it was here. So all of this builds now, so we can run these tests, which will fail because we haven't written the code to handle this message yet. So that's what we're going to do now. So this is in the coordinator, and I haven't showed this in a while, so it probably would be useful to show. Under, where did I put it? Notes, and then realm server architecture. So these are at the very high level, different subsystems of the game's backend server. And coordinator sits right here, roughly between the classes which handle the WebSockets and the web interface, and the journaling system, which we use for state replication across servers, the executor, which takes game commands and applies them to the game state, and then this game state itself, which is it's a loose confederation of different classes. The biggest one right now is the entity component system that holds all of the game data, like all the zones in the world, all the NPCs, etc. And then there's a smaller configuration object, and then there's a player's object, which is sort of like a database for all of the usernames and like Twitch identifiers, stuff like that. So people who are playing the game. And this is where we're modifying today. We added a new field in there which marks the version of the terms of service that a player has consented to. And then when we bump it up in the configuration and that player logs in, we compare the two and we say, oh, the player hasn't consented to the latest terms of service. We'll show them the dialog. And then if they consent, then we'll generate, the front end will generate this message to the backend server. The backend server is then supposed to turn around and make a game command called policy consent and mark that player is consenting to the policy. And it'll go to the executor, which does it, and then on the way back, the coordinator has to handle the feedback, which is this consent recorded, where if we pretend that a policy consent was recorded, executed by the game, we're supposed to mark that that client has now consented to the latest policy. And where else did I check this? Oh, I should probably also check the version. No. This is the only thing the coordinator is required to do, is do that, and then there was one more thing, wasn't there? No, maybe that was it. Just return a logged in for login status, just so the front end knows we can play the game now. Yeah. So that's the beginning and end of the process, and in the middle is the executor, which will be taking this policy consent command, and it's going to be doing two main things. It's going to go and change the player record to record that, yes, they've agreed to the current version, and it's got to go to the entity component system and basically finish the login process, so bring the character into the game fully so that they get a camera and they appear to other players and NPCs, and they can now interact with the world. And we saw a little bit of that yesterday. We'll see the rest of it today. So it's all about making these tests pass right now for the coordinator. Then we'll have to do the executor part in a minute. Okay, so whenever a client sends a message to the game through the WebSocket, it goes first to the coordinator's message handler, and there's a huge table in here, right here, where we register message handlers. I just need to add one. Raft is not my algorithm. I'm just implementing it. There's a command for that. There's a nice website there. There are white papers, and there are many other implementations out there. I just had fun making my own. I would not recommend making it yourself. I'd recommend finding an existing proven implementation, unless you really want to learn by doing and you enjoy doing stuff yourself from scratch, like me. So policy will be going here, right? Policy consent, and then we need to say what subsystem of the coordinator will handle this, and I think it should be auth. So that means, just like this login, the message handlers are pairs. So this macro expands to calling this, where we're passing in two functions, a subsystem command type check and make command. So that means, like, for example, login will have a login check and a login make command. So if I look for that, we will find it there. And I believe also there's a macro for the declaration. Here it is. So I can do the same thing for the policy consent, and then right here we can do the same kind of check and make command for policy consent. Login is pretty long. There's the make command. Okay. Maybe, do I want to put it in rough alphabetical order? So I would maybe put it after that. I don't know. Maybe. No, let's keep it where it is. Macros are evil, yes. Evil macros. I like to say macros are evil because I've seen people abuse them a lot. Now, they're not inherently evil, it's just that they are a lot of the times used for evil purposes in coding. When I say evil, I just mean that it leads to a lot of wasted time later debugging. Weird bugs happen when you use macros the wrong way. And I saw it firsthand at the last company I was at. It was horrible. They had a code base which had literally hundreds of macros that you'd either turn on or off. And only a few combinations of that 100 different switches would actually work, and no one understood why. And you'd ask, well, why do you have these switches? And they're like, well, because the guy before me put it in there, and we're terrified of taking it out, because the customer would see the massive number of lines of code change, and they would question it, and we wouldn't be able to answer it, because we don't understand this code anymore. The first place I added, they were out of order. Ah, maybe you're right. Oh, that's right. O comes after L. Thank you, A squared. You get a point. You have 2 points now. Thought you had more than 2 points. Oh, right. You were on the list of, like, accounts that we might have lost track of points for, right? Yeah, you said you had 9 before. I need to check to see how you lost your points. We'll get them back. No worries. Like how Windows.h adds a macro for min-max. Yeah, well, it was worse than that. Like, you know how you would say, like, they got into this bad habit of saying whenever they add a feature, they would have to put it into a, they would call it a feature macro. So, like let's say this policy consent was a new feature, they would always do this: if def feature policy consent, right? And if they were nice about it, they would say what this was for, right? So you can see it's sort of bracketed. And they were literally like hundreds of these feature somethings, right? And they nested within each other. They were interwoven, and a lot of the times people would just turn them on or turn them off and leave them that way and never test the inverse. So just if you were to turn something randomly on or off that no one else touched, it would just break, and you'd ask, well, why do you have this macro in there at all if it only compiles one way and not the other? And the answer is usually, we don't know. It was the guy before me, before him, and we're terrified of changing it because the customer will say, why are you changing all these lines of code? And I would ask, well, would you do this in the first place? Usually their answer would be, we want one code base to serve 26 customers, and only 13 of them want the thing on right now. The other ones don't. But then over time, eventually they would all want it to be on, and then they would stop maintaining the code where the feature was off, and then it would break at some point, and then they couldn't take it out. Or they would have to leave it in and just tell people never touch it, because if you touch it, it would break. It was just scary. They just didn't understand how to properly divide up a code base into modules so that you can have different recipes or combinations for every customer. And at this point, you could probably figure out what that company is, and it's probably not a secret that they do that. But it was just terrible. Hey there, Mr. Love Pickle. How are you doing? I was actually in a team at that company whose sole purpose was to train the company not to do that, and we failed. Because no team wanted to take up the responsibility of making massive code changes just to clean up the code and do it right. Even some macro set feature boolean would be, well, they had stuff like that too. Like, they tried to do it. They tried to, like, mend their ways, but it was just a massive code shop with a lot of people who just didn't know how to do something like that and scared to make changes because they're like, I don't want to be blamed for like being late a week and losing $1 million contracts. No one wants to be in the way of that. So people were just terrified of making any kind of, like, code base wide improvements, even like incrementally. We would try to say, well, just do it for your next feature and don't bother about cleaning up the rest. Well, eventually we'll phase them out. And it's like, no, it's just too hard even to add a new feature the right way. So we gave up. And I went back to the team I was in before, and yeah. I liked the people I worked with in that team. It's just, we weren't in a very nurturing environment. We were treated as an adversary, kind of like any kind of quality control team is in a big company. You're the people that blame everyone else for when they screw up, and so everyone hates you. Spent a few days basically rewriting a code base to make it clear, and it was just so slow. Yeah, and then if someone is sensitive to lines of code change and they need to code review it, then it's extra burden on. Yeah, so it can be expensive in many ways. All right, so I put that in its place, right? And why is this giving me a problem? I don't know. That should just have been. Oh, well, this will be a problem unless I do this. It should build though, unless I've screwed something up. Yeah, what's the dealio? Overloaded member function not found. Did I misspell it? I feel like I've misspelled something. Hey there, Toulouse. A similar conversation you had with your boss today. We need to re-architect something, but it won't be beneficially visible to the end user, so it's lower on the priority list. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I guess I don't miss about working at a big company is that a small or one-man shop doesn't have those problems. We can just go ahead and say, we want to do it, so let's do it. Why is this not... Did I not hit save here? Here's the... Did I misspell something and I'm just not seeing it? I feel like I'm just being blind right now. I just don't see a spelling mistake. Okay, let me literally take that and paste it there. And see what's going on. Oh, that's... Hey there, Clayman. How are you doing? Overloaded member function not found. See declaration. Hold on. No. It's this line it doesn't like. Oh, the prototype is different. Oh, right, because I copied login and that had some extra stuff. That was an asynchronous call, wasn't it? Yeah, that's what it was. We could see that here. It's a different macro. Now what? Oh, differs only... Okay, the return type is... Right, it's... I should just look up this one. Check. Yeah, it's Boolean. It's supposed to return whether or not you're allowed to do that command. So we'll just say return true. All right. I suppose we should put the minimal code in there like you shouldn't do the command unless you're connected. Yeah, this one. You can't do it when you're not logged in. So policy consent when not logged in. Probably a good idea. And then this one, I think we can just set up the command, right? It doesn't have to be anything. Yeah, something like this. Where we just set it up. There's no logic involved. It's just converting the message into a command for the game cluster. Policy consent. Policy consent. And we are using the player ID here. If it's 0, that means their account ceased to exist by the time we got to this point, which is technically possible. So we don't need this. We just submit it. I think that's all we need to do to make the first test pass. And where was that? Here. I did not pin that file, that's why it didn't show up. Okay, run. Cool. That's the first part. Second part is when it gets executed, so we're not handling that. So when stuff gets executed, that's a different table. That's up here in command execution delegates. And we're going to do the same kind of thing. We just add another table entry. Policy consent. On policy consent executed. And it'll be like these on login, logout executed. Like that. Policy consent. And, oh, thank you for that follow. Oh, well, you're welcome. I hope you enjoy watching. Yeah, there's a lot of other programming channels, Sean, if you don't know about them. Like, here's some other ones that you might want to check out. There's, my inspiration comes a lot of the time from Adam, 13531. But we also have some, you know, here's some alternatives. There's Mr. Sir CM Griffing, and there's Soding, and who else would I recommend? Just in general, for general programming. Tim Bidet. Let's see if I can spell his name right. So, yeah, if you're new to watching programming on Twitch, there are some channels that I recommend. And you'll see a variety of things. A lot of developers are doing either web development or algorithms or games. And amongst all the game developers, a lot of them are using Unity or Unreal, and a few of them, like Adam, are using JavaScript. Or and then you have yet others who are using like all sorts of different game engines. All right, here is the prototype. I'm gonna cheat and control click that one and paste the implementation where it would go relative to where the header file declares it. Okay, here's what we need to figure out what we're gonna do when that command gets executed. Hey, you're welcome. So the test expects us to do is mark that flag and then return that message. So let's see about doing that. This message is also returned by log in executed. So maybe I can copy that. Yeah, let's copy that and change it a bit. And my computer stole my focus away to tell me that my printer has low ink. Thank you, printer software. The command is policy consent. We only need that to recover the player ID, and we don't need it from the results. We're going to get it straight from the command. Do I even need this? I guess we can do that. There's no harm in that, right? And there's never going to be an error, so it's always going to be empty. The ID is always going to be not 0, so we can just do that, right? That's to tell the subscription system that a user has logged in. Actually, no, we don't need to do that because they're already logged in. There's a lot of stuff I'm able to remove here. Paper in 2019? Who uses paper? What are we talking about, paper? You know who still uses paper in 2019? School systems and hospitals. Because I've had to sign a lot of papers recently. And they were, yeah, paper. Okay, I don't think I need to worry about this condition. We're just going to go through all of our clients and see if if any of them is the player, then we'll respond to it, right? And yeah, this is not needed. So of all clients currently connected, I think the condition is if the player ID equals the command equals the player ID. Actually, I guess we don't need to define player ID. We can just pull it straight from the command there, right? Then we will do an unsuccessful. Well, okay, let's see if I can reuse that. That's probably what I want. but I'm not sure yet. Oh, wait a minute. Here's where I want, that's why I wanted to use the variable. That's why. That's why I wanted that. So I can do that and then get rid of that. This requires a token. What if... Like, we probably don't want to call that routine. We probably just want to do a subset of this. Yeah, because I don't want to do that or any of this stuff. I think I pretty much want to just do this. So maybe that's all I really need. So just, whoops. I moved the cursor by accident. We just want to tell the WebSocket. The WebSocket is the client first, by the way. Send login status of logged in. And then, I guess I got to look up their name and token. I'll do that in a second. Recently bought a brand new TV. So excited to watch Twitch on it. Then you realize Twitch doesn't have an app on LG's TV anymore. You don't have a Chromecast. Oh, that sucks. First world problem. Hook your laptop up to your TV. Can't be bothered to do that. Can't be bothered to do that. That's another first world problem. Can't be bothered. Do we need to... I don't need to send this token, do we? Because they're already logged in with the token. I don't even think I need to do that. What if I just do that? That's all that test required, right? Well, I did have that, but you know, I don't even think I need that. I think I can remove that. Because they already know they're logged in with whatever username. They just don't know that they're fully logged in. So this will do it, right? Having a TV in 2019? Yeah, there you go. Touché, huh? We have a TV and we hardly ever use it. Actually, that's not true. When we want to watch something as a family on Netflix, we'll watch it on the TV because it has the Netflix app. Yeah, there you go, Netflix. Yeah, what we should get rid of is our cable TV. We don't use it. We don't use it anymore. Okay. Not only do we need to send that the test expects us to set that flag, so we will do that. So that's client.second.consented equals true. Done. Oh, and I don't even need to worry about diag, do I? Because there's going to be no diag. Let's just remove that because we don't need it. Okay. Yeah, for me, I use my PC for everything. It's only when, as a family, would we use the TV. Unless I really wanted the comfy couch. But I'm too used to sitting now. In fact, I'm so used to sitting that I had back issues for a while when I wasn't sitting at the right posture. I'm sure a lot of you can sympathize, can relate to that. Okay, why is it still saying that? Why? Interesting. Why did it do that? Did I do this wrong? Hold on. Maybe it never gets there. No, it did. Oh, I think I might know. It might be that it sent that first, and then we didn't clear it. I need to clear, what was it again? It was like player.clear reset message receiver. That's what it was. I had something to do this. It was important. A 13-inch MacBook Air. Wow. See, I'm getting to the point where you know, I'm in my 40s, right? So I can't look at something that small without hurting my eyes. I remember being younger, be able to watch stuff on a tiny screen, but I can't do it anymore. I envy all you young people. Okay, so that's all working. That means the coordinator work is done. So then the next step is the executor. So we need to have an executor test to make sure that when this policy consent command comes in, that we do the right thing. We probably already have something in here. Player creation. Actually, maybe we just add it to the end. Yeah, let's just do that. Let me pick something similar. How about login success? Let's collapse everything and take a look. What's a simple command that affects a player? Actually, what about the chat? Yeah, what about not chat, but like a gifting points would do it. Yeah, something like this. And I wouldn't even need these components either. I just need a command and then actually these worked with unlinked accounts. Was there a gift with a linked account? There we go. And I want between linked accounts, that would work even better. Actually, this one's fine. Yeah, let me just take this one. I don't like to write stuff from scratch. If there's even a glimmer of something similar, I'll steal it. Coffee pasta. So we're going to call this policy consent. It doesn't need to be elaborate, right? And we're just making a player named Alex. And we need to record what the policy version is. This thing right here. We need to do that right before mobilize. So we'll say the latest version is 1, and when we create it, the default is 0, right? So this doesn't matter. I think all I really need is name. That's the only minimum requirement, I believe. Add, and then we don't need a second player. So default player record, name them Alex, add them to the game. Get the configuration of the game, set the policy version to 1, write it to the configuration file, mobilize the executor. One of the first things the executor does is reads that file to reconstruct the configuration. And then we do the policy consent, simulating that the player just agreed to the latest policy. So that should bump the version that's recorded in their player record to 1. Oh, also, we should simulate that they're already logged in. So that would be a player 1 by giving a non-zero server ID and client ID. Although I don't know if the test really requires this. But when those are set to non-zero, that means the player is connected to the game through a WebSocket somewhere. The executor doesn't care because if you remember back in this diagram, the executor is disconnected from the WebSockets. The coordinator handles that. So the executor just knows, according to my buddy the coordinator, this player is logged in. That's what non-zero numbers there means. So I don't even know if I need to have that technically. Anyway, the only thing I need here is player ID. And then this just gets where we should put it in the journal, make an entry out of it, publish it, and commit it. We mock the journal because that is the neighbor of the executor. So when we're testing the executor, we're mocking everything around it that the executor would be talking to. So we mock the journal, we mock the coordinator, all that stuff, right? So these are this mock journal is something the executor would have registered a callback for, and so this publish is calling the callback saying, hey, there's a new command, and the cluster committed it, so go ahead and do it, you know? Yeah, so we would expect that 1 is what we get back for policy consent version at the end. And then we also want to make sure that the player is brought into the world, so that's not this stuff. So I need to go look and find out where that's done. That's probably done in login success, right? That's with two-factor auth. Actually, we would see it here, wouldn't we? No, we don't see it. What would it be? Components? Oh, there's probably a special test for this, like test to make sure that that the character is placed in the world when you log in. I just need to find it. It's probably around here somewhere. See, it's almost 7,300 lines of code just in this test suite. It's getting unmanageable. Thanks for adding the labels in the GitHub issue you made. Oh, right, yeah. There's actually I think there might be a bug in that. Was that in the? Oh, I added the labels. Oh no, I'm confused. You're talking about the GitHub issue, and I added the labels to track that it was an enhancement and a content request, right? But you reminded me there was the other thing that you talked to me on Discord about, where I labeled the areas of where the character's vision was versus the light. I think there's a bug in the bottom left corner. There's a tile there that's dark that I don't think should be, and I was going to look into that because as I was drawing the markers, I'm like, according to the visibility and the light, it should be visible. So it's kind of weird. I meant to look at that, but yeah, no problem. You couldn't see how to? Maybe you're not allowed to unless you are a collaborator on the repo. I don't know. I use those tags just so that I can search for like what are the main thing I use it for is what are the things that have been fixed that haven't been pushed into production yet. Might be contributors only could be. Maybe I should look into changing that because I would like people to, when they report something, to say whether it's a bug or a feature request or something. Although I can just always do that when I read it. Okay, it's here somewhere. Okay, here we go. Create character, but there is none on login. Oh, here we go. Move character moved. Oh, and I remember talking about this yesterday. Move to non-default zone in login window. Not right. This one. Long name, but this is essentially what I want. That they are in zone 42 when they started out in zone 0, the logged out zone, and it was recording that they were previously in zone 42 when they were last logged in. So I need to add that actually. That character component needs to be recorded for the character in it. So I need these lines and this line. So let me take this and copy it down to here. Paste it there. And then I need not all of this, but just that line. Put it there. And player 1 can just be player. Oh, I got a text. Oh, hold on, I'm reading a text. It's a long text. Okay, cool. Mischief managed. I should probably say thank you. There we go. Oh, contact info. Okay, cool. All right. So these are the minimum requirements for components that are associated with the player's character in the game. So that they have a tile, it doesn't matter what's in the tile, and then they have a position in the game, and we're not going to care about coordinates other than what zone they should log into and where they are when they're logged out. And I should go back and find the condition because it's the same condition. This one. We expect that will happen. That they will go back to zone 42. So, let's build it. I think that the tile might be obscured by the wall, but the way I had can I show that on... I can't show my entire Discord on stream, but I can show maybe that one page, that one image. Yeah, if I do the open original, yeah, I can show this. This is the drawing that A Squared and I were talking about, and the original conversation started as, it's kind of weird that you can see these 3 tiles here, right? Isn't that kind of weird? And the way I explained it is, it's because we're showing, like, it's kind of hard to to see how the things are lit and not, because it's all binary. It's either completely lit or it's not. But these are illuminated by a light source roughly up here, and it's illuminating everything in the green zone, right? Including those 3 squares. Problem is you can't see everything else illuminated by it because this wall blocks your vision along this diagonal. So this diagonal is intersecting the, or on the left, down left of that are these 3 tiles, and everything else is above and to the right. That's why those 3 show up and these don't. The problem I had is when I was drawing it down here, if red is our vision, no, what was red? Okay, I didn't draw it quite right, because if red is supposed to be what this torch shows, so actually red should include all of this too. But anyway, red should include this tile down here, and the vision should include it too because it's intersected by that diagonal. So I don't know why that tile doesn't show up. I think it should, unless I did my math wrong. All right. I was going to look into that, because if we can see that tile, we should be able to see that tile too, and I don't know why. I have to think about it. It might be... Oh, wait a minute. It might be because it's exactly diagonal along the light as well. That might be why. It might be that... No. Light should propagate from that quadrant to that quadrant and light it. Vision should propagate from here to here, and then go to the left. So it should intersect there. We should see the top left quadrant at least, which should light the whole thing. So I don't know why that's dark. Completely lit, bro. That's right. Yeah, red is the torch. Red is the torch you can see, and then the green was the torch you couldn't see. That was causing the weird 3 tiles that, like, are, why are those lit, kind of a thing. All right, running that test, it's going to fail, and let's see if it fails for the correct reason. Yes, so the policy consent version didn't change, and we didn't get fully logged in yet. Okay. So this is the job of the executor. Where are you? I don't have the executor open. Let's pin it. So the executor has its own table somewhere in here. Of all, yeah, here are all the commands it executes, and the functions that it calls, that are called to get things executed. So this is going to be provide consent. If I can spell it right. On provide consent. And we'll just go to the next one, I guess, in the list, and just copy it and paste and change this one into provide consent. Execute the provide consent command by updating the player's record to indicate they have consented to the latest version of the game's policies, and then complete the player's login process. All right. So, where do I reconstruct the command? Here it is. This wacky static pointer cast. This is because this is the base class, and we're downcasting because we know that it's the provide consent command. It's safe to do this. And then that gives us the player ID, so we can get then the player record from that. Const auto player equals game state players get command player ID. How come that's an error? What if a player is reading the policies and you update them in that time? They would be agreed to the second latest version. I thought about that yesterday. And the same problem can happen if you're playing the game and the policy gets updated while you're playing. I think what I'll do is I'll say that for those who have logged in, okay, maybe you've actually got me to think about something new. I was thinking if you were already logged in and playing, I wouldn't notify you. It would just be, yeah, you're agreeing to to one version old. So if a dispute came up about and there was some difference between the two policies, it would be what you agreed to, the older version. Now you're right. Like if right at the moment between the game showing you the policy and then the consent being applied right here, what if it changes again? I think the only way to solve that would be that the front end has to say what version they checked in the provide consent command. So we could do that. Okay, yeah, we can. We should do that. So let me give you a point for that. We'll have to modify some of the work I already did though to include the version, and then instead of just getting the latest version, we'll just set it to the version that they say they agreed to. And could that be abused? We could do a check where we make sure the version is actually that's all I need to do. I can check. No. I'm having a debate in my head. We could have the coordinator check that the version is current, and if it's not, it could return an error saying, you need to go read it again because, hey, guess what? It changed again. But then it could again change in the executor, and I think if that happens, we'll just like if they were logged in and it changed, will be one behind. And then the next time they log in, they'll see it that it's changed again. But yeah, I don't want it to accidentally think that you consented to the latest version when you didn't even see it. That would be bad. Yeah, all right. But what did I do wrong there that it doesn't even know about it? Did I misspell it? Oh, yeah. It's policy consent, not provide consent. Shouldn't that be on policy consent then? Yeah, I think I'm confusing those two words. Yeah, it's policy consent, isn't it? Yeah, I completely confused that. Okay. This is going to want me to return something, isn't it? There we go. Server sends policies and version. Client agrees, sends agreement confirmation and version. That's the thing, A squared, is sending the version back is what we'll have to do. And the server will, I guess we could confirm that it's not bogus. I don't see why we would need to, though. Because the worst that would happen would be the client agrees to more than what they thought they were agreeing to. Actually, you know what? We could just do a round trip thing where this just checks to see if it's still the latest version, and if not, we can send back the response we were doing before, which was need consent. Yeah, okay. I think you've convinced me to further adjust my plan here. We'll do exactly what you're saying. We'll have the server also confirm the version, and if it doesn't match, we'll not do anything. We'll say, hey, this isn't the latest. You need to consent to the latest. Yeah, let's do that. And you don't have just 4 points. You have what now? 13 at least, because you had 9 from before that. I need to find out where they went. Yes. Yes, exactly. I agree with you, A squared. So let me just get this test working, and then we'll make those changes. So what this is expected to do again is take the current value from the configuration and store it in the player. So it would be player. No. This. So do I even need to do that? Maybe not. I think I can just do this though. Set policy consent version, and then it'll be command player ID, and then it'll be, right now, I know this is not correct, but we'll do it to make the test work, and then we'll change the test. this is the original design that's not correct, but it was to grab it from the configuration. So that's cached configuration? I forget what it is. Configuration? Yes. Exactly this. And we will pull what the test had expected. Latest policy version. And then what the last thing it's supposed to do is do on player logged in. Game state command player ID. And I wonder if we should also make sure that that's only done once. What happens if we do this a second time by accident? I actually don't think it would be a big deal. I think it does nothing if you're already logged in. Yeah, this is just going to end up doing nothing. Yeah, I think it's safe. Well, it'll create a second camera. We could prevent it by checking to see if you have a camera. And if you already have one, don't do it. So just sneak that in there. So check to see if you have one. You're good. I know you are good at noticing the strange edge cases. So is ToS and a few others in chat. I know you would be decent. As long as you enjoy doing it, I hope you get a job that's like that, because you're really good at it. All right. Yeah, so we didn't need that in actuality, right? But I do want to have this check. It's not create component of type. It's get entity component of type, or maybe it's with. I can use the with version. We can see if there is a camera for the player. Oh, actually, that means I needed to have that grabbing of the player record, don't I? So we can do it here, though. Because that needs the type and entity and the function that takes the entity and the component. So I think I'll just do it this way. It's sort of roundabout, but it avoids a copy. So has camera defaults to false. And then if we visit the components and we find that the player has a camera, we'll record it here. So this is int entity const JSON value component. And then we would just say has camera is true. And then we say if not has camera, then do it. I'm not going to bother making a unit test for that, because I think, well, I should. Okay, I'll write that I should do the right thing. I'll compromise and say it's just a note for today. Note. Should make a unit test to make sure sending a policy consent twice does not result in 2 cameras being created for the player. Actually, what would it do? It would actually overwrite the first camera and give you a second one, which wouldn't be too terrible. But it's just not something we need to do. Doesn't with do a fairly costly loop? No. The with is the cheap one, because it just does a find and then a second level find, and then it calls the visitor directly. The more expensive one was the get, because that would actually return a copy. Where is it? Get entity component of type. This one does the same 2 finds, but then it returns a copy. So I'm doing the one that doesn't do a copy. So it's two lookups, you know, because it's a 2-level map. 2 finds and then call this, and we're just, if we get there, we just want to set a flag saying, yeah, he's got a camera, we don't need to make one. And it wasn't that I fixed it ages ago. I fixed it fairly recently, and I'm using the convention that if it says with, it's a visitor pattern, specifically because we don't want to do expensive modifications and copies of the data structures. We're just walking through them, and if I design the data structures correctly, they're going to be quick, or either order 1 or order log N or something like that. And you can't have two cameras because the same entity can't have two components of the same type right now. So it'll just end up overwriting it if you did go in to here and created one here. It's a map, not a multi-map, so it will this will end up just overwriting the component with something new. It won't actually create anything. But I don't want that to happen either. All right, did I build? No? Yes, I did. Cool, it works. I'm going to be lazy and say I'll do that later. I want to do the changes that A² prompted me to do, which is we should, I guess we can start with the executor. We should expect that whatever this is, let's set it to 2, that in the command we can set something else, like policy version, to 1, and then we would expect 1, not 2, right? Which means we have to have this policy version in the command. So, or policy consent. So let's do that. Let's put it here. And I think I'm using that because there are no negative numbers allowed. Is that right? Okay, actually. No, I've been using int. I should just use int. I get into this bad habit of using size t for things that count or, you know, generation numbers. But size t, the fact that it doesn't have a sign, can be a real problem when you are doing math, because you can, if you underflow, you have to detect the underflow condition very carefully. It's not just that it goes negative, it goes to an extremely large positive number, which depends on how many bits there are, which isn't, you know, always the same. This is the version. We should remove the latest. This represents server command, which is used to record the fact that the player is consented to a specific version of the game's terms of service and privacy policy. Yep. This is the version of the game's policies that the player has consented to. I think what we'll do is, if it's not the latest, whether it's greater than or less than, we'll just reject it and say they gotta go provide a consent for the current version right now. Yeah, with int you can just expect, you know, yeah, if it goes negative, the math can be used to check it, right? All right. So these need to be modified, and so does the command tests. Yeah, so let's put it in here. Policy version 42, because I like 42. And doesn't matter what number I put there, as long as it's some number. Or let's do 16 instead. Just to mix it up a little bit. All right, and then the matching here. This is policy version. I mean, you can see it's just ridiculously simple. I almost want to make a code generator to do this based off of just a short description that we have 2 fields that are integers. Part of me really wants to do that, or find a tool that does that, but not right now. I don't want to get too distracted. Okay, let's build that much of it. It's going to fail this test now. Right here, and then we'll fix the test, and then we'll do the coordinator changes too. You can do nested namespaces, sure. Where exactly did I do that? Did I do it here? Yeah, that's a nested namespace. My convention these days is for every directory level to have a namespace. So with the standard directories, like source and include excluded from that, right? And the top level doesn't count either. So under include, there's realm server commands, so I have namespace realm server commands. And so yeah, it's rooted from the include directory, whatever subdirectories I have matching namespaces. And then the source, since they're implementing what the header file declared, they have to also have the same namespaces. That's because one of my mentors really drilled into me the fact that a namespace and in a folder in a file system are really, if you think about it, pretty close to each other because they are subdividing the space of all names. That's what a namespace does, right? A folder subdivides the file system space into different areas as well, and they can be nested, and so can namespaces. And they give focused locality, or, you know, I'm not using the right words, but you get what I'm saying. That's what folders do too, right? I can group together a bunch of things that all relate to the concept of commands, and the namespace sort of mirrors that in the names of the classes and structures. So it's the same idea. I try to keep them similar. Compiler not support shorthand. What would the shorthand be? Like this? I think they added that in C++ 14 or 17 or something like that. And I'm not running that version of C++, so I will get an error there. Language feature requires compiler flag C++ 17. Actually, that should prompt me to do this. I have a special to-do here. C++ 17. Reasons to move to C++ 17. So let's add one. And we'll credit Atomic Nibble for this. And we'll say, C++ 17 would let me do this. And then what he said. Whereas right now I can't do that. So there we go. Yeah, I've been compiling this list to help motivate me to learn C++ 17, because I'm still on 11. Mostly that's because I've been using C++ so long that I got too used to C++, even before C++ 11, and it took me a while to pick up 11, and that was just in the last couple of years. So it's hard to teach an old programmer new tricks, you know? Yes, I'm on 11 right now. Sorry for the long-winded explanation. When we get that, it's because the Test Explorer happened to be running the program right at the moment it was trying to be linked. I've run into that many times before. And that's the symptom where Test Explorer is like, oh, I guess it's gone. You have to hit refresh and then it pops back up like that. All right, let's run it. It will fail. Right, so it bumps it up to 2 when it should have been just 1. That's true, but some of this fluff is good for readability, right? Like, optional was kind of nice. The fact that I don't need to give the template arguments for unique lock would be kind of nice. There's a bunch of like things that would be nice, and I'm making this list to help me. At some point, this will be an overwhelming number of nice things, and I'll be like, okay, I really want to learn it now. A lot less to learn. Maybe. I'll probably agree with you. Once I learn it, I'll be like, that wasn't such a big deal. I should have done it back in January of 2019. Probably. That's one thing about lazy people, is they always think that what they're avoiding will be a lot more work than it really is. And then when they do it, it's like, oh, it wasn't so hard. All right, so executor should not pull from the latest. It should just pull it from the command. And it should actually, this could be an error now, because it's not. If it's not the latest, we'll have a problem, right? So we should get the latest. Const auto latest policy version is that, and we have a chance of it failing now. Ugh, my cursor's all over the place. If command policy version equals latest policy version, then sure, let's do it, right? Do all this stuff. Otherwise, we're going to do something else. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to turn it around and have the error state taken care of first. But we're going to have to return something. Actually, I think what I'll do is I'll have it return error if there's an error. Otherwise, don't return anything. So this will be return JSON object error. What do we want to say? Not latest policy. But do I even really need an error? Do I even really need something? That's just leaving. That's just its own namespace that I could have other error codes if I wanted. And this convention of using JSON to communicate between executor and coordinator, that's really just for my convenience. I could just make an enum at some point. So I'll just leave it like that. And then I can just do this. Now I'll have to make a unit test that does the right thing. Actually, the test I had wasn't correct anyway, was it? There should be two tests. One that where it agrees, and this one that does not. Let's have this one, policy consent, latest version, and then we'll have, like, not the latest version. Policy consent, not latest version. So they don't agree, right? So we should expect that this stays at 0, and then this also stays at 0, and then there should be we should expect an error. Expect equal to whatever I put in here, not latest policy version, or executor. Thought I had a convenient, was it execution? Yeah, execution error. The framework collects that for me. Where do I do that actually? I do it right here. Right, because in the execution callback, we extract that and save it there for convenience, so we can look at it there. Okay. And then here's one where it is the same. Then we'll expect it to match. There we go. Why do you need to learn them all to just use one? That's a good point. Let me give you a point for that. I think for me, I like when I learn something to learn as much of it as I can. And so I want to devote enough time to fully consume it. Or at least enough of it where I feel like I could teach someone else what they want to know or help them with C++ 17. Like if I were to put it on my resume that I know C++ 17, I would feel disingenuous if it's just a few things of it that I knew and not enough of it to feel like I could pass a test. You know what I mean? So I'd rather learn enough so that I don't feel like a hypocrite saying that I know it when I really don't know enough of it. I could start using it, but I would rather do it all in one effort. Pick it all up, put it on my tool belt, and start using it from there. So I guess you could say that's just personal preference. Okay, that works, and does this work? Yes. Okay, cool. So the executor does the correct behavior. Now we have to get the coordinator to align. Policy consent given. So this will be, again, two different things, right? Actually, no. This one should just expect that the command includes the latest version. So we actually need to put the latest version in there, don't we? We're at line 3100. So let me look for latest policy version. Here it is. And then go back to 3140 roughly. And yeah, so right here. So if we change the configuration at that point to say the version is 1, then we should expect 1 in the command. For policy consent command version. And then there are two possibilities. It's policy consent recorded, or policy consent success, really, and then policy consent failure. I think the coordinator won't really care whether it succeeded or failed. So a success would be nothing that comes back. We would expect just that to be set. If it's failure, it is that this is published with an error. JSON object error feels bad man. And then this should go to false. And this should be whatever I had in elsewhere. Let me look for it. A lot of funny ones in here. Need policy consent, that's it. Need policy consent. Yeah, feels bad, man. I mean, that's an error, right? Don't you feel that that's an error? You shouldn't feel bad. Yeah, so Atomic Nibble, like, I like to emphasize that there's a large category of things which I label personal preference, and that is where I don't believe that any one way is correct, and I would feel hypocritical by saying this is the way to do it. So like not picking up C++ 17 until I wanted to devote time to learn it enough to put it on my resume, that's just a personal preference. That's something that just works for me. But I don't recommend that in general. I don't think that that's the only right way to do it. You know what I mean? I don't want... Another thing my mentor drilled into me was to avoid dogma, which is where you just say, this is the way you do it, and it just either offends or irritates people who either have done it a different way and it's worked for them, or they like question like, how come he's telling me this is the right way, but this other person says something else? You know, you get irritated that you're not getting good education, right? So I like to avoid dogma and hypocrisy and just say, unless like I'm pretty convinced that there is only one right way to do something, then I'm just going to say most things are, it's up to your experience and preference or context or something. And all I can really do is tell you what I do, and also maybe recommend why. Like, if you're the kind of person who wants to be able to help other people with C++ 17, I would recommend learning enough of it so that you could do that before you move on. And for me, what works is when I'm learning something to learn it all, to learn a lot of the same subject in one setting and not pick up a piece here and then a month later pick up another piece. That doesn't really work for me. So yeah, it's whatever works, right? All right. So this one should not have been affected. Let's verify that. No, it is affected because it doesn't store the version in there. And this one will work, and this one will not work. Correct. Okay, so we got work to do. I guess we can go from the ground up. We can say, well, if there is an error, yeah, so if results has error, otherwise do this way, right? And either way, we're going to break if we find the right client. So if there's an error, it's needs policy consent again. So the front end will just repeat itself, and otherwise, no. So that should fix that. No, dogma I've seen used by people who have gotten stuck in and crystallized in the way that they like to do things. And it's sort of sad because I think it affects people who are like older and people who have a lot of experience, and they fall into this trap where they think that they're the best, they know the best, and so they stop questioning and they stop learning new things. And if they picked up some bad habits, those bad habits get incorporated into their image of what is the right thing to do, what's good engineering, and then you can't convince them otherwise because they've now tied what they do know that's good to what they thought they knew, which was bad, and they think that they're the same thing because everything is now solidified in their one world view of what's good engineering, right? And I run into people like that, and it's really difficult because they feel personally attacked on even the smallest little things. Like you'll say, I prefer spaces instead of tabs. And they'll be like, it must be tabs because this is the way you write code. And the way in their mind is like they have a complete picture of how to write code, and tabs is one little thing there, and it's indivisible from the rest. And yeah, it's just that mindset is just kind of sad and difficult to work with. And that's where I've seen dogma the most, is people that have they think they figured it out in their profession, so they have one complete picture in their mind, and then they're resting comfortably on that, and then that's their dogma, right? And it could be a lot of good with some bad, who knows? It's the inflexibility that you get that is the problem, I think. Okay, I've been ranting too much. But how can they know unless they've tried everything? But no one can try everything. People can think that they've tried everything, but they can never really know. I think that's what happens is people start to believe that they've done everything in their field, and they're like, I don't need to learn anything more. I know the right way to do it. Yeah, they don't know. Right. If you know that you don't know something, I think you'll always be having that door open and questioning and thinking, I know there's stuff that I don't know, so I should keep asking the questions to make sure that I pick it up correctly, you know. I myself was in the experience of I was directing a team and I thought that I didn't need to learn anything more about what we were doing. And then I had a team member come back to me years later and say, you were a real jerk. I didn't like working with you because you were so set in your ways and you always told us what to do and you would never listen." And that really struck me at the time. And I'm like, that's something I never want to have to do again. I never want to assume and be complacent that I know everything about a job. And that's one reason I stream on Twitch, because constantly people give me different ideas I hadn't thought of. And I'm like, trying to keep that door open to accept that feedback and improve. And I think it works. If I was just telling you how I was doing things and I wasn't listening to the chat and not taking up ideas and changing my design on the fly, then, I mean, I know some streamers like that. I don't like to follow or watch those streamers because it's a monologue. You try to contribute and they don't listen. And you just feel like, yeah, I'm wasting my time here. I mean, some people like that. If they're learning and they just want to learn, they don't know anything about it, and they just want to listen to some expert say what they know. That's fine. But at a certain point, you're just like, you want to have it go both ways and have a dialogue. And someone who already thinks they know everything, you never have that dialogue. If you have a dialogue, it's more like they're trying to change your mind and correct you than it is for you to contribute. And I hate that. I really do hate that. All right. I hate it so much that when people correct me, I give them lots of points because I love being corrected. I don't want to ever think that I know the answer. I want to always question. Sorry, I'm rambling. I wanted to test what exactly was it? It was this one, right? So I haven't done this one yet where we have to grab that version and put it into the command here. That is the make command up here. And by the way, I don't need those debugger statement anymore. Installed a new CPU today, so you finally have AVX2 optimization time. Nice. That is something vector instruction version 2, right? That'd be my guess. I ran into a problem once with Visual Studio, like some version of it, where they actually had a bug where they screwed up the optimizer, and it was emitting instructions that certain older CPUs didn't know how to decode. And I happened to have one of those CPUs that couldn't decode it, and it was one of those vector instructions. And so I had to like revert back to an older version of Visual Studio so that I could run my own code. And yeah, it's one of those, it hardly ever happens, but when it does, it's really sort of crippling, where the tools you're relying on, like the compiler, just stop working for you and you don't know why. And then you find out, yeah, it's their bug. It's like, oh, okay. I always assume it's my bug and not the compiler's bug. And here's one of those rare cases where it's a compiler bug. So you step back a version and you're back in business. And then I watched that bug until they fixed it, and then I tried it again, and I'm like, okay, coast is clear. Make command, right? So here's where we want to store into the... I hope people don't mind that I'm rambling today a lot more than I usually do. We're going to take it from the configuration, and I think the coordinator has a cache for it, if I remember right. Cached... No, it's configuration, config.cached configuration. And then we get the key from it. I had the configuration cached. Why? Oh, because there's a special configuration object and it's expensive to keep copying it. So we get our own version of the JSON. I remember doing that. Latest version. And I don't know if I need to, but I'm going to put the cast in there anyway. Cool. Fun fact. One of the stream's DRM systems will generate an exe for you or PC, and one of the tricks they do is to is in reset new instructions in the protection code, so it crashes on older CPU. So they do it on purpose? That's interesting. I see. So yeah, they tailor the program to work for your CPU so that if you tried to copy it to another computer and it happened to be an older CPU, it just wouldn't work. That's neat. I hadn't thought about that. Too bad it doesn't work in both directions. Wouldn't it be cool if like I don't know, would it be cool or would it suck if every CPU was like unique and then you can custom tailor and execute it for just one CPU? That would be the ultimate DRM, wouldn't it? And people would probably hate it. Because they'd be like, I just upgraded my CPU and then all my programs stopped working. Yeah, but I thought that hardware ID could be spoofed or cloned or something like that. I'm talking like it's burned into the CPU somewhere where it just like. Actually, I don't know. Is the hardware ID burned into the CPU, or is it something that can be? But you can obviously clone it if the thing could run on a virtual machine. I don't know. We get down that rabbit hole of like what do you call it, an arms race between the people who are trying to circumvent the security and the people who are trying to make the security. And I know, and I quickly discover that I'm not competent enough to engage in the conversation. The deeper we go, I like talking about it though. I just don't I don't feel so comfortable because I don't know the answer. I can only listen. I'm always skeptical too when someone says that like there's no way to hack something or there's always a way to hack something. I'm always skeptical. I want to see like where's the data and where's the experiment or where's the proof. Cool. So everything is passing. I might be getting to the point where it's time to do the front end work. Just an arms race. Oh, cool. I figured it was an arms race, but one where it's advanced to the point that a layperson like me in that field would not be able to participate much, other than maybe the basic stuff. Cool. So, coordinator and executor are working. We can try this in the front end if I manually update numbers. I'm wondering if I should do the GM side first because that makes it a bit easier. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. So what I'm thinking about in the GM side is I have this versions panel. As I can add another section for policy versions, and it would just be an input box that shows the current number, and you can change it and hit update, and it would just change that part of the configuration. And I've done that before. This does it in a sense that when we check a different version number, all it's really doing is changing the game's configuration. And the game itself detects the change, and if it's something like a server version, it'll do the right thing. If it's like something else, like this policy version, it doesn't really need to do anything until it reaches these decisions about like, should we require consent or not. Got to the point you can't just manually patch it. You need to write a tool to process it. But once they've made a tool, right, then you have to make up another tool or yeah. I get you. In principle, makes sense. Sounds like you can make a lot of money at it too, being an expert at that, because there are probably fewer and fewer people who can keep up with it, with the arms race. You know, while I'm at it, I think I'm going to comment out these parameters we don't actually need, because it's probably the right thing to do, just to mark that we don't need those. In fact, I didn't need that from the message either. This is something that you can do and that linters will appreciate, to mark basically to the compiler and the human reader that, yeah, we were given this parameter, but we don't care. Thank you for that follow, by the way. So the only parameter this function cares about is the player ID, because we take that and we put it, we make sure that player exists and we put that into the command. Oh wait, I didn't do this far enough. It shouldn't fetch it at this point. the client should tell us what it is, right? Yeah, yeah. That was the second thing that Atomic Nibble told, or was it A squared? One of you guys that starts with an A had a great idea to do that. So yeah, let me change it again. It has to go further back. So wherever this needs policy consents is, we should include the policy version number, because that's what they're agreeing to at that moment. They might be agreeing to a newer one, but we can always it's impossible to know the exact number they were consenting to, because we're just giving them a link, and we hope that they follow the link and read it right then, and that while in the space between that we might have updated the policy. If we do, though, then the number transmitted won't match, and then we'll force them to reread it again. So yeah, I think this will work unless they try to hack it. The worst thing that they could do is they hack it, is they're consenting to something that they never actually read, and then that's their problem, right? Okay. Yeah, so I can say expect equal to 1 as an integer, messages 0, policy version. Right, so wherever we see that, we should have that in there too. So here again, it failed. We should have it say what it is. And let's just make that a 2 for now, because didn't I, one of these change, no, I had it changed to 1 here. Let's change it to 2 down here. Let me think about this. Yeah, as long as it's before this publish, right? So anywhere here, 2. And then just to simulate it correctly, we'll have this say 1. And then let's actually do what the real executor does, instead of being cute about it. The real executor would say not latest policy version. So feels bad man, but we can't say feels bad man. So then this will figure out what it is. Why, if it didn't match, it'll look it up again and return the current version again. Cool. Yeah, yep. All right. Wait a minute, why did the other test pass, though? Wait a minute, that was in 2 places, wasn't it? How come there was only 1 test failure? Oh, no, there were 2. There were 2. Yeah, it's the policy versions. And this one is completely wrong. Oh, what's this client configuration changed? Oh, that's because when we do that, that triggers the coordinator to tell that to all the players. So I should reset this after that. There we go. Okay. Coordinator. Check we don't modify, but message we will, because we're going to get it from the client, right? No, I didn't include that in here yet. It's this policy consent. I need to include it in there. Yeah, because it doesn't matter what we put there. It doesn't. In fact, I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to say that this is 2, because we're going to require... where did I put it? Oh, I didn't. I haven't put it anywhere yet. Let's use the same... Where was it? the same string I used when this was, this policy version. We'll use it on both ends. So we'll have the client say what version they're agreeing to. And that should go into the command. And then if it doesn't match, it should come back what it is now. Both on initial login and they haven't agreed yet, and also if they agree to the wrong one. Yeah. That's what we'll do. So then we'll get it from the message and put it into the command, and then it means I need the message. Yeah, and we're doing it this way. We're pulling it from the message, not the latest policy version. And it is whatever I put in this dang test. I close all these other pop-ups. Policy version. There we go. And yeah, when it's executed down here, it'll be in the command again. No, it doesn't matter if it's in the command again. It'll either have failed or not. If it fails, we should say what it is, right? Int impl config cached configuration latest policy version. And then there was one more place where we needed to do that, right? Need policy, here it is. So, it's an extra key we need to include only if that's false. So, there's the extra key I want. So let me do it this way. We'll take that out and say that that's auto message is that, or is it message already used? Yeah, message isn't used, so we can use it. That's message. Now, if... Actually, I guess I can do it... I can pull status out as well. So, if we've consented, then message status equals logged in, right? Otherwise, it's need policy consent, and we have to add this key as well. So, message policy version equals that. And then we can just send message encoded like that, and then I can remove this key. So notwithstanding whether or not we consented, you always are told a login status with the username and token. If you consented, you're logged in completely. Otherwise, we need a policy consent, and here's the latest version. Sounds good? I just noticed something in that overlay up there, which is made by CM Griffing. I'll give him another shout out. Called Stream Parrot. I just noticed that it's all white. That all the color information is gone. And I don't know why. I thought he had put the timestamps and names and text in different colors. I wonder if he changed something. I'm alpha testing right now. He's still working on it, so it's possible he might be in the middle of working on it. Here, let me write something in chat to see. Okay, well there my name shows up in red. So it must be that Atomic Nibble you don't have a color set. Yeah. The people who have colors set will show up in that overlay. But if their color is not set, I guess it's just picking white. Ooh, Morpheus 0! Thank you for the subscription, my friend. 3 months, wow. With Twitch Prime. Thank you for your Twitch Prime sub. Yeah, Atomic Nibble, you know you can set your chat color, right? The color your name shows up in. I guess if you don't set it, it shows up as white in Chris's overlay. Cool. So all the coordinator tests passed. So back to the executor. Here we go. Thanks again, Morpheus Zero. Appreciate the subscription. Your support is very much appreciated. Policy consent latest version. That's the latest version. It's in there. We would... I guess I don't need to change the executor, do I? It either matches or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, we just say it didn't match, and we don't log them in. We don't change the player record, and we don't change the game to log them in. So yeah, it should still pass, right? Don't need to change anything here. I think I'm working on the front end now. There you go, you're blue. Nice blue. I don't know why, but I've been drawn to red. I think it's because it just shows up really brilliantly. But if you were to ask me what my favorite color is, I'd probably tell you green. All right. I think we're working on the front end now. So let me upgrade the version of the game that's in test here. So Control C and then run again. And then we're going to work on the front end. So this is React stuff. I want to add a panel here that shows the version of the policy, and let us change it. And when I change it, the next time I log in with this window, actually I guess it's closed. Let me log in here and show you. Chickens, remember me. Oh, it's because it's not running right now. It will in a second though, and this will connect. Instead of just popping me into the game, it should say a dialogue saying, our terms of service or privacy policy has changed since you last played, please. Read them and click here to acknowledge that you consent. That's going to be the work we do now. Okay, that... What was I seeing there? What scrolled really quickly there? Was it just this? Yeah, it's just me logging in. Right, okay. Close all this stuff. Player console, pause, not public source. Use activities panels version panel. There we go. And we're going to want the configuration. Or do we want to have a reducer break it up? I guess our admin reducer does this already. Versions. No, it's not part of the configuration. Okay, so what is part of the configuration that might be reduced? I guess we can see it if we go to middleware server messages. There's going to be a configuration message, right? Configuration on configuration. Configuration newer. What does that mean? Oh, we look at the log index. Okay, so if it's an old configuration, we just discard it. If it's new, then reflect server configuration. So that's the next message. Reflect server configuration. So we do handle it in the admin middleware. Right, this is for server upgrading. Game connection, what do we do here? Oh, this is our socket connections. We'll connect to any new servers. Admin reducer, oh, here we go. So I do pick apart some things from the configuration. I pick apart the golem channels. Is that it? Okay, there's also the configuration reducer. And I have this lovely note. If I ever add a second realm to the game, like a second shard of the game, so to speak, that this would not work. Because it assumes the first one. So it's really just picking off the name? Is that what it's doing? Yeah. Okay. So let me think about this. What's one thing that I said fiddles with the configuration? Was it this one? Oh, these buttons do, definitely. So I could look at the settings panel to see what we do there. Hey there, Crumpet. How are you doing? The Crumpet's color there is a more subdued red. Like a classy red, like a brick red. Doing well? I'm glad. I'm doing okay too. Yeah, red. I guess since it's part of your name, red, you have to pick a really classy shade of red because it's part of your name. I mean, it's your identity. The settings panel, I said, right? Yes, the settings panel. Like when I have this permit new accounts. Is it not settings panel? Well, how come I'm not? Okay, let's search for it. When in doubt, search. Ha. It's in admin settings. Interesting. Okay. What does this do? Oh, it's an actual action. Okay. So I should probably do the same thing. I should have an action to set the policy versions. But then how do I know? Oh, it's just pulled straight from there. Okay, so we can do the same thing. Let me pin that one and then go back to versions. And we can get the flag. Well, not a flag. We want to get the policy version. Actually, no, I'll call it that. But this has to match exactly what I was using in the test before. And I already closed all those files. Why did I do that? I don't know. I'll need to find them. Test, source. I guess we can look here. It'll be here, right? Latest policy version. There it is. That's it. While I'm at it, I should add that to the template I use for the configuration of the game. Because I don't think I added that. Yeah, it's not here. This is all out of order, too. Yeah, it's nowhere. So just add it to the end. Just abandon all hope of ever keeping this sorted. And then make that 0. Because we have no policy. And this needs to be in a string, doesn't it? And what else do I need to change? Don't think I need to change anything else. If it's not in there, what will this do? It will be undefined, right? So I should probably do or 0. And then we have to have what do we do when we change it? So that's just like the admin settings. We should have, yeah, something like that. Let's call it on set policy version and put it alphabetically in the right order. And we'll just call it set policy version. And we'll just use that and make that the formal name of the argument. And this will be a new action that I need to have. Actions. Define action, set policy version. And now I think what I'd like to do is see who is handling toggle mail queue suspended. Toggle mail queue suspended. Okay, so it's admin middleware. So it's probably, this is where we want to handle the new one as well. So this action, we should handle it in the admin middleware as well. Set policy version. So above shutdown orchestrator. And the action I said would have what? Policy version in it. Dispatch. And then, so it's just like this toggle stuff, right? All right. We get the configuration, we form the new configuration, and we submit an action to set it. So get our current configuration. New configuration is that, but with this flag changed. Or not a flag, but this variable changed to that. then dispatch a change configuration to set it. So there we go. Nicely buttoned up in the right spot. So now I just need to make the DOM around it. We would put it below this, right? So we have another heading. Policy version. Policy version. And this would just be a simple form, right? A simple form. We say the phrase simple form, and we don't know how simple it is for Raimu. It's difficult. Forms scare me. Let me pick a form that's not so scary. This one's not so bad. I can do this one. This one won't be too frightening to me. I don't know why, but stuff I don't know very well scares me. So right, forms need to submit, and they will have a button in there. Oh. Is there no button? This is probably a bad example because there's individual... Oh no, this is the add. There it is. There's the submit. So I need to turn it. It's not going to be a table. It's just going to be a single row, right? So how do I make a single row? I guess that's just a div, or do I just do it in place? Like, actually, let's move policy version here, and then make this, it really doesn't go here. What name do I put here? I don't know. That's all right. My work scares you as well. Don't really understand React. I'm sorry. What don't you understand? I can maybe explain a little bit and it'll be less foreign. What we're looking at here is what is in React called a component. And what it really is a recipe for making a piece of an HTML document, which is what your browser is rendering for you on screen. And it's sort of a mixture between like native HTML elements and like manufactured ones that either go away completely, like React Fragment goes away completely. It's just here to bracket this, and then it'll be gone in the real HTML. Or like some other things. I don't see an example right here, but they are replaced with yet more HTML. So it's kind of like a template or a recipe for making a web page. If you want a row, you should display flex on a div. I don't want a row. I copied from somewhere else. ASM junkie. I only needed this because I wanted to remember how to do the button. So we'll have a button, and it will be not add, but set. That's all I needed. Forms are scary enough that I didn't know how to write that from scratch. I need to have an input box too. Actually, there's the input. That's what I want. So this will be the new policy version. Unchanged field, set new policy version. We'll just make this React state, I think. React state pulled from the configuration, right? So that's a state hook. Use state. This is newfangled React stuff. Const. What did I name it? New policy version. And then set new policy version. That's the pair where this is the current version of the state variable, and this is the function that you would call to change it. You just say use state, and then you pre-fill it with, we'll use this as prop here to pre-fill it. Policy version, right? Then that gives you an input box where it starts out with whatever is in the game, and if you change it locally, it's just changing a local React state variable, and then it's when you hit this set button that we want this to then trigger the application to go send a new configuration change to the game. And that's similar to this on submit, right? Probably. Yeah, like this. And I need an on change too, don't I? Yes, I do. The way this on change works is this for an input is what function should I call when you type something in the box, right? And this is evaluated at the moment that you're building this element. So this function is called right away, not when you type something in the box, but right now. It will call this and then pass this to it. So what this is, it's a function that given another function returns a third function. So this is functional programming, and it's a little bit, it's like blows your mind the first time you see this stuff, but it's functions returning functions returning functions. OnChange wants to call something that, back up. OnChange wants something to call when you type in the box. To figure out what we want it to call, we go to a factory function called onChangeField, and we run the factory given this other function, and we say, well, take that function, the setter, and package it up into this looking function where onChange is going to give us an event, and what we're going to do instead is call the setter function with the event's target's value. Does that make sense? It's easier to read inside out, I think, that we eventually want to call the setter, which is set new policy version. And what do we want to give it? We want to give it the value in the DOM. So this is, given the event, the target of the event, which will be this input box, its current value. We're going to take that and we're going to give it to the setter, which is set new policy version. Now, this thing we want to do in response to an event. So that's this thing. Now, to get that and put it into the onChange, with this actual setter, we use this factory. So given this is the setter, this is the handler. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. If not, then I'll try again later. I eventually want to be able to explain it in a way that people would get it, or at least help them get it. Because then that would prove that I know it correctly. Or if I explain it and someone says, no, that's not how it works, and then I would get myself corrected. What do I put here for a header? If we're going to have versions of other things too, let's say I'm game data, or because this whole thing is for versions, right? Can't actually show it because it's not compiling. Actually, why is it not compiling? It says get state is not defined in 1030 of admin. Oh, yeah, we don't have get state. That's an optional argument. There, fixed it. On add to black. Oh, because I copied a bunch of stuff. Yeah, this stuff. Right, so when the form is submitted, we prevent the default action, which is to do a post back to the web server and then reload the page. We don't want to do that. Instead, I think I just want to call the prop on set policy version, and that's given the value, right? So that would be new policy version. There we go, and then that needs to be passed in as a prop. Whoops, how did I get there? I don't know. So I don't know if you're still there, Crumpet, but this isn't just React. There's also some Redux filled in. Let me collapse this, for example. You can let me collapse it? There we go. This is React. This is Redux. And this is Redux React. So there's React. Then there's Redux stuff, and then there's React Redux, which is an integration layer. So this connect thing, which you see down here, is integrating React with Redux. Redux is sort of like the database locally in the browser. You can think of it that way. There are two things you get with a database. What is the current data, and how do I change it? And that's what these are. So both current state and methods to make changes to state get packaged up as props for React. React is all about given some props or properties, what am I going to render into the web page, right? And so those props could be numbers, or they could be functions that we want to call in response to clicking on things, essentially, or typing. And so that's why the current policy version is just a number we pull from the current state in React in Redux. And then that's a prop called policy version. And then we have another prop called onset policy version. I tried to use this, I misspelled it too. I tried to use this convention where, did I misspell it in 3 places? I did. Where if it's just a variable, it doesn't start with on. And if it's a function, it starts with on to say like, when something happens, do something. That's how I remember it's a function. So this kind of prop is going to be a function that we call that will go back and dispatch an action in Redux. And actions in Redux are all about either changing the state immediately or causing some kind of side effect that, might dispatch other actions. It could mushroom out, or it could just, in a roundabout way, do either changes in Redux or, other side effects. It's sort of separated. The concern about what happens when we want to set the policy version is separated from React. We don't let React worry about it. We worry about that in Redux middleware instead. So that way you can code up the user interface and not worry about what do the buttons actually do. You let that be some other part of the program's job, and your job here is to just show what is the current version and give you an input box to change it, and then a function to call when you submit that form. That's all it's doing. So what does that look like? Right, so it's 0, and if I set it to 1, it should send a command to the game, which will change it to 1. Let's see if that works. And then if I reload, it should still be 1. No, it didn't work. Have you watched any of the CPPCon talks? No, I don't even know what CPPCon is. So there's a convention for C++? I did not even know that. I'm looking to see, did it not like the message I sent? Did I even send it a message? I don't even see it. So let's look at the debug messages here. I want to look at network. Yeah, that is network. Okay, and I don't need that. And we'll just reload. And the GM gets WebSocket connections to all 3 servers. That's why we see them here. But we should only need to send the message to 1. So, oh, there it's set to 1. Okay, then why was it 0 a minute ago? Weird. Anyway, if I set that to 2 and do set, one of these, here it goes. No, that's where we get it back. Where do we set it? Here we go. A change configuration has been set. And somewhere in here should be latest policy version. Here it is. And it's set to, it's at string 2. That's a problem. We want it to be a number. Yeah, and then we get it back as is, right? Actually, all 3 servers should have told us that. Yeah, all 3 servers did. Is that the problem, though? It's a string instead of a number. We need to fix that. I reset and go to that page. Okay. A bit of a lag. It's on YouTube. They're awesome. Oh, cool. Hey there, Chevywood. And hey there, Rhyolite. You guys should watch Rhyolite stream. If you're into how the brain works and studying like how neurons function and how to model that, Rhyolite's the perfect stream to watch. How are you doing today, sir? And Chevywood, how are you doing? And I thoroughly approve of any streamer whose name starts with R, H, and Y. It's just a thing about names. Your brain is highly caffeinated today. So does caffeine change the weighting factors in the neural net model? Or, I don't know. Trying to make a brain joke and I don't understand enough of it to make a good joke. It makes you think you are faster. I see. All right, I screwed up here in that when we change it, probably here. Yeah, we don't parse it. Where do I do parsing? Probably here somewhere. Yeah, this stuff. So I want to do that. Back where we do the policy version. Yes, right here. I want to parse that as an integer and put that into the JSON. There we go. Fixed. So then, oh, is this the problem? It doesn't change it because, oh, I see the problem. It's showing 0 because, and then 2 when I flip back because there's no re-render. Well, actually, it would have re-rendered, but the state would have been unchanged. Yeah, that makes sense. You know, I'm okay with that. So if I change that to 3, you know what's weird is I only see 2 sockets and not 3. Anyway, we should come back, it should be the integer 3. There we go. And then I can do 0. Cool. It comes back as a 0. Nice. All right. You have line of sight now? Yeah. Have you seen that? So this is stuff I was working on weeks ago when I finally got it out into production. So there's both line of sight and there's also light casting. So for example, here's a GM view, right? If I take that light, whoa, it's slow all of a sudden. Why is my Chrome so slow? Anyway, the game's not slow, it's my Chrome. I can move the light around the corner here, and you can kind of see that there's some kind of light behind that we can't see. And then it comes back into view. My Chrome is super slow. I think I'll have to restart it. It's probably taken up all my memories. Yeah, let's restart it. Restart the old Chrome there. And then I'll need my incognito window for this. Login with password. Chickens is my local password. And back to here we go. Yeah, I don't know. Chrome. Oh, there it goes again. It's lagging for me. Weird. Anyway, yeah, we worked on that recently. It's pretty cool. And when I'm moving the cursor, it's lagging. Why? Why you lag? Why you lag, Phaser? Or React or Chrome or whatever it is? Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. We added this just now. I'm not going to worry about printing up the CSS and putting the right padding and margin in there. I just want it to functionally work. So the idea is that if this doesn't match now, but that's set to 1, then when I log out and try to log in again, it should give me the wrong login status. Let me show the network view here. It should say like that we haven't agreed to the policy. Yeah, see, and it didn't know what to do. See, it got a need policy consent. It gave us a persistent login token, but it said, dude, you got to consent to the latest terms of service and privacy policy. Get with the program. Interesting that it gave us our inventory. It shouldn't have done that. I guess it doesn't hurt. So we know what our inventory is, but we don't have a camera in the game, and it probably will let me move even though I'm not allowed to. I forgot to do that part. That was on the plan too. Don't allow most client commands until they've agreed to the latest policy. So we did these other points, and I just haven't done this one or this one. And we just did that. And I'll do that later. I don't need that today. So let's at least have it pop up the dialog. Would that be a different activity, though? I think so. How do I manage that? Not a panel. Actually, I guess it would just be a dialog. We're technically sitting outside the game. It should complete it. We've completed the authentication process, so this should be dismissed, but then we should show another dialog, right? Yeah, so let me make the dialog first. Dialogs. Well, I already have the box in which one? New player dialog? I added that in here. Policies agreement. So yeah, let's take that dialog and duplicate it, and we'll call this policy consent, or how about policy change, policy change, policy change. Why not? Policy change dialogue. Oh, I had the word dialogue in there for all of them. Let's be consistent. And I don't know what props I'm going to need. I'm not going to need any of this stuff. Well, we want to give them the option to log out if they don't agree, right? Actually, do I need to log in then? What is... Oh, that's... Right, that's the... what do I call it? Oh, that's the prop to call. But what does the string show up as? It's the submit button. What does it look like? Sign up. So it wouldn't be sign up, it would be log in. Or it would be consent. On give consent. And we don't need any of these other things, right? Yeah, I don't think so. So there's no username, mail, password. We do have a policy agreement flag though. It starts out as false. There's no reCAPTCHA junk. Okay, and then this should be on submit. And I guess we need a new action, right? So we'll invent a new action on. Yeah, actually, no, I already have it right here. Never mind, I have it. It's on give consent. I do need that because I need that which calls that. No, wait a minute. Maybe I don't need a change field. I don't need a change field. No reCAPTCHA, no tooltip. Do I need an effect? No. No reactive effects needed. We do need that tip, but it's going to be different. It's going to be consent tooltip. Or, yeah. Policies agreement. You must agree to terms of service of policy to log in. And should we just rename this one? Login button? Or how about consent button? Right. And then, oops, that should just be on submit. Okay, and this is gone. Where's the consent thing? Oh, it's right there. So, actually, do I want a header? I should probably put a header up here. Our terms of service and privacy policy. That's just too long. That shouldn't be the header. That should be like in a paragraph of some kind. So what's a short form of that? Our terms have changed? Our policies have changed? Our terms of service and privacy policy have, let's make this a real paragraph, like that, have been updated since the last time you logged in. Please read them. Eventually, I think I want to have it like, you can also click here to see differences, but let's just keep it simple for right now. Please read them and click I agree if you consent to the new policies. Let's just say if you consent. Well, no. If you do not agree, click log out. Let's just say your consent to them is required in order for you to log in. Please read them and click I agree if you consent to the new policies. If you do not agree, click log out. That's it, and then we can remove that whole div there, and then there's the important box. I have read and accept the privacy policy in terms of service. And then I don't have a reCAPTCHA. I have a button bar, and it's not conditional anymore. It's just a log out button, and there's no progress. It's just a consent button, and it's I agree. And that's it, right? And there's no line or anything or any error or any of that stuff. Okay. So what props do I need? Log out and give consent. And neither one is a state, so I can drop all of that. I just need... Oh, I already have log out, so let's just give consent then. And G comes for 4L. Last time I checked. So like that. Give consent. And yeah. Let's make sure that that action exists. Give consent. Maybe I should be more specific. Give consent. Let's say consent to policies. There we go. You're storing a single flag or has accepted new terms. It's actually a version number. So here in the GM view, whenever I update terms of service or privacy policy, I'll just bump that number up and hit set. And then anyone who logs in after that, we compare the current version number with the version number in their player record. So if I show you the player record, we added this policy consent version. I guess I did make it a size T. I really should have just made that an int. Anyway, they have to match. If they don't match, then we've changed the terms since you last logged in, and then that's this whole workflow is you'll get this dialog box, you agree, and then the command is issued to the game to oh, I lost that executor to it makes sure that it at the moment that it updates your player record, it makes sure that they still match. If they don't match, then you have to see it again, right? So that avoids any kind of race. But if you agree to the version that is currently the latest at the moment that you give the consent, then we set that in your player record, and then we do this stuff, which is if you haven't yet completely logged in, it logs you in completely, and then we mark that, well, this marks that you've consented to that version, and then the auth.cpp tells you that you're logged in. Actually, that's later on. On provide, what was it? On something. On policy consent executed, right? As long as there's no error, it says you're logged in. But if like it's still out of date, then it'll again tell you what is the current policy version. So they have to match, basically. Yeah. ASM Junkie, we put that in there. That's what we did. Consent to policies. S comes after N. Consent to policies. All right. And then probably that should go the same place log out goes, right? Log out. Authentication? Sure. Right here. Actions.consent to policies. This is really just going to send a command to the game, is all it's going to do. Although I will need the get state, because that has the version number in it. Because we need to send it back to the game, right? So we're going to end up dispatching another action to send something to the game, which is this is the part that needs to match what we were doing in, how come I didn't pin it? Auth.cpp. In policy consent make command. So it would be this policy version. And that's get state. Where did I put it? I put it in the game configuration, didn't I? Oh, wait. No, we didn't put it anywhere yet. I have to get it when you try to log in and you get the message that you need to consent again. So we need to put it somewhere. Where do I want to put it? It's in our reducer somewhere. How about session reducer? So it'd be session policy version? Sure. And then the type has to be policy consent. Or basically it has to match what I have in coordinator, impl, and this, where was it? Client message, policy consent. There it is. That has to match there. Okay. That's if we consent, and that means the dialogue is done. I need to put it in the list of dialogues. Import policy. I need to really type it out. Change dialogue. Ooh. Shouldn't it figure out that it's there? And then export it, right? Right here. And then it can be imported where we need it. And where would that be? Dialogue? Yeah, right here. Oh, there's a constant for it also. Yes. I actually just copy this, right? What did I name it again? I'm so bad with names. Policy change and then the dialogue part is removed, right? Yeah. Dialogue. Policy change. And then right here, import it. Where am I? I'm like moving around everywhere. Here. And then import the dialogue itself. Policy, there we go. There it is. It filled that one in for me. And then we tie the two together. Dialogue policy change is policy change dialogue. That I bet I could write a function to do that by mangling the names and stuff. All right, so then all it's left to do is to pop that dialog box up if we get a certain login status. So that's what I'm gonna do now. The login stuff, I think it's in session, or is it in? I can't remember. Log. It'll be in this table though. No, not in the reducer. In the middleware. Oh, maybe it's here. Might be here. Yeah, login status. So it is not an error, it is a special condition. Kind of like one of these. So we'll add it as another special condition. Let's put it here. It's roughly in that order of like what we'd expect. Actually, it would sort of become, it would be before logged in, wouldn't it? Yeah. So, what was the message? It was where I'm not seeing it on. Yeah, it's there. How come I'm not seeing it? Oh, it's because it's the executor tells us that. On login executed, right? Or on login, it would be down here somewhere. Right here. Oh, no, it's not here. It is in the coordinator. It must be, I must have put it in here. Yep, that's where I put it. So it's need policy consent. But we'll still have the username and token, so I need to make sure that I do that. But login is not complete yet. We would want to hide the dialog, but we want to show the other one. So dispatch actions show. Hold on, I need to use the restroom. Just a minute, I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Okay. I don't remember if I have different actions for different dialogues or what. Thanks, Nui. It would be under show, wouldn't it? Show. Oh, it looks like I have one for every different kind of thing. Alright, so let's show what kind of dialogue. Policy change dialogue. Show policy change dialogue. So that means this is show policy change dialogue. And then that will need to be caught. Where do we do that one? Dialogue reducer, makes sense. To go after the ends. Oh, this is out of order, look at that. M, N, P, okay. Wow. Some out of order things in there, okay. Okay, but these are all similar. I wonder if I should just collapse these together. They're all like clear the error in progress, and then they update the dialogue stack is what they do. Oh, that's, yeah, we can also put other things in there, that's why. Why do I have initial category and description in the dialogue reducer? Oh, that's to initialize the dialog box. That's why. Yeah. Okay, I don't need that. So this is just dialogue policy change. Cool. So we also need to capture the version number because we're going to send it back, right? So where did I say that was going to be? That was with this dialogue. What? Yeah. No, it was in authentication when it sends it, right? Policy consent. This one, I said it was in the session reducer. Okay, cool. So the session reducer needs to also capture the login status to capture that field out of it. Probably already capturing login stat. No, I'm not. Interesting. Yeah. I wonder why I'm not. Oh, now I am. Now I will be. Oop, too many action dots. Okay. And then really this is if action dot policy version, right? Whatever auth that CPP gives me. Yeah, this one. Only if, let me pin that. Only if we have that. So let me do an early return actually. Return state, right? Otherwise return everything from state but with policy version collected from the action. Am I doing that right? I think I am. And then we just need to initialize that to something. I guess we'll make it 0. Okay. That was a lot of work. I think I'm done now. Let's see if it works. Let's reload. Log in with password. It should tell me I need to... There we go. So what did it give me? Policy version 1, and I can check to make sure it got into our state. So our state session policy version... Wait a minute. How come there's all this other stuff anywhere? Oh, I put it in the wrong spot. That's why. Policy version goes here. It's not even in the... It's in the overall state. Here we go. It really goes here. Oh. Right. Have you agreed? Do you agree? Do we agree? I don't know. I can log out, and that brings me back there. And that should have disconnected the socket, did it? It did not, really? I always have a hard time reading this panel. Does this mean that it's done? I'm getting a text now. Oh, cool. I can pick it up. There we go. I'm gonna guess that the connection is dropped. Actually, this backend would have told me. Yeah, they logged out. We did a log out. We're disconnected. Correct. Not still connected. I thought there was another message sent. Oh yeah, there it is. Disconnected. Requested logged out. Is disconnected. And I'm printing it twice because we cleared the player ID, but when the socket is dropped, it's actually disconnected. Okay, so we're good. So then if I try to log in again, it should repeat the process with another WebSocket. Aha, it says caution request not finished yet if it's not finished. Got it. So if I say I agree, what does it do? Oh, that's weird. It didn't put me in the correct zone, did it? I'm stuck in the logged out zone. Help me. Okay, what did it do here? We sent back policy consent version 1, and then it said, okay, here you go. Here's some sprites, tile sets. You're logged in. Okay, I want to fetch my profile, all that junk. So it did all that. But we are in zone 0 for some reason. Well, shoot. Go. Yeah, we're in zone 0. Yeah, it didn't put me back where I should be. Why would it not? If I log out and log back in again, it should, right? If I just hit refresh. Bad password? Oh, it cleared the token. I know there's a bug I just realized I have. When we consent, we're actually clearing our login token by mistake. Okay, login. No, we're still here. Why? Why are we there? Oh, because when we log out, it saves the fact that we were there. Okay, well, let me save my character by doing that. Yay, I'm saved. Okay, let's make sure I'm saved permanently. Okay, now we're gonna upgrade to version 2. Set. Now when I reload, it's gonna say, oh, our policies have changed. Okay, fine. I agree. Well, that's weird. So why did it pop me into the logged out zone? Oh, is it because I logged out and then tried again? That might be why. Oh, that is why. I know why. When you log out, it takes where you are and remembers that to log you back in. But if you never got in the first place, then where you were was logged out. Okay, so there are two bugs. There's the one I just described, and then the other one is where if you, let's say I'm logged out completely, where if I reload, we don't have a persistent token, and I say remember me. Remember me is set. Actually, I have to do that when the policy is updated, so we're going to 3 now. So log in. It says remember me, right? And we're now challenged here to that you need a consent policy, right? You guys can see that. So when I do that, it's going to do another. Actually, it's easier to see this in Redux. And I can't see. How come I can't see Redux? Do I have to restart to see that? That's weird. Okay. Why is Redux not working very well? I mean, there it's working. Okay. New. Let's do this process again. So when I do that, a whole bunch of stuff flashes across the screen. Let me do a log out so we stop getting messages, and I'll show you what it did. So there's the consent to policies right there, right? And then we sent the game the message. We received back a whole bunch of stuff, right? And when we get to this logged in status, check it out. It's going to... where does it actually do this? It should... Oh, it's not going to show up in Redux because it's in the local storage that is done. It's in the handling of login status. If you get logged in, it takes whatever, if there's a token here, and stores it. If there's no token, it clears it. We don't want to do that. So I need to find that log in status again. No, not this one. This one? Yeah. It does this. But it should only do that if that exists. That might be null or undefined. So I should have this say if that and that. Actually, I just make these conditional, right? If token, then do that. If username, then do that. And actually, you know, this should just be a function. This should be let's take this whole thing out and make it a function because it's in 2 places. So we'll put it here. Const persist, well, how about handle login token equals this. And then I can just call it from 2 places. So I can do it here. And then I can do it here too. And then I don't need that. So either one of these will handle a login token if we got it. And handling the login token says if the user asked us to remember them, then if we're given a token, save it. If we're given a username, save it. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, so that should fix one bug. So let's test that. Let me bump the version again. And then I'll log in. And then log in. And then I will click I agree. And then when I refresh, it should use the token. It shouldn't have cleared it. Yay. Awesome. So the other bug is, what was the other bug again? I forget. Bump the version number, and then when we refresh, it says their policies have changed. Oh, I think it was when you log out, And then you come back in and you have a change of heart, and you're like, okay, fine, I'll accept him this time. And it's like, uh-oh, you are in the logged out zone. That bug is because when we log out and we haven't consented to the policies, it still takes our character out of the game, and it shouldn't do that. So I need to make a test case for that. But first, let me save my character. I rescue him by doing that. Yay! I've been rescued. Hooray! Okay. My Chrome is slow today. Well, we're all done except for one bug. So let's put that in. That's the executor does this, right? It's log out. Where's that? Let's scan and find it. It's like move character back to logged out zone on log out. Create character, blah, blah, blah. These are all log in. Where's the log out stuff? Do I not have a test for this? It should be something like on log out. Oh, there it is. Character move off on log out. Character in default zone move to logged out zone on log out. Right, so these two tests, I want to make a variation of this. I'll take this one for example, and we'll do it where it should not do it if they had not consented to the policies. Or if they were, actually it's easy, I can just say if they're already in the logged out zone, don't do it. So here we go, we'll just put them in zone 0. Is that enough to say? I think so. So they're technically logged out. Their character is not in the world. We do the log out. We should expect, actually let's put this key in there as well. We should expect that doesn't change. And that's what's broken right now. That will break. And I didn't give it a name. Okay. Character not moved to logged out zone on log out if already there. There we go. How do you guys like my long test names? Probably 95% of you are like, ugh. So there's the bug. So we got ripped out of zone 42 and now we're stuck like in the logged out zone forever. So this is all in the executor. It's all his fault. You can blame him. Executor, stupid executor. So it's on log out. It's this on player logged out is what it is, because this does stuff like, yeah, take us out of the zone. It deactivates our move. It takes us out of the current dialogue we're in and destroys our camera. Actually, this is the indicator. I think we'll do it. If they have a camera, we'll do this. I already had code for that, right? Add special Unicode spaces to the test name, and then they basically are sentences. I don't know about that. Would that would confuse Future Raimu for sure. Future Raimu would be like, how does that work? Macro argument cannot have spaces in it. Okay, I was going to look for, I did the with entity component. Yeah, this one has a camera. In fact, you know, I could maybe make that its own little function. We're in the anonymous namespace already. The only problem is there's a lot of variables it depends on. It depends on game state. It depends on player, character, entity. Actually, that's the only thing it those are the only thing it depends on. So maybe it's okay. Actually, more generically, couldn't I just build this into the ECS itself? Like has entity component of type? It would be a Boolean, maybe? Let me put that on the list. That's what I'll do. I'll do a refactoring later. Add has entity component of type to components. And replace usage or refactor, use it to refactor the two places where the executor uses with entity component of type to determine if a client, yes, well, actually it's player, if a player has a camera or not. Right now I'm just gonna copy paste, because copy paste is easy. On player logged out. It's specific to what? Manual logout. Oh, also a disconnect would do it. So actually we should do it in on player logged out, I think. We should just do it here. We should do an early return if they don't have a camera, right? Oops. We should do that after we get the player. If not has camera, return. There we go. Fixed it. There was a blog post about such a thing. I don't doubt it. There was a really funny article I saw years ago about how what was it? They were using some language where you couldn't have namespaces like that, and they managed to write code that looked like they had a namespace. And someone was like, "How did you get away with that? The namespaces aren't supported in this language." And they said, "Well, that's not really a colon. That's some special Unicode character that looks like a colon, but it's not." And so that looks like one token to the parser. And I'm like, oh, that's clever. Because when you think about it, all a namespace is a way to divide names. And you can do that. I could do that with that. That's another kind of namespace, right? It's just a conventional, it's by convention a namespace. Whereas this is supported more strongly by the compiler, right? You're about that too? Was for Go generics? Maybe that was it. It was for Go. Yeah. So you've seen it too. I thought that was very clever. All right, so running this test again. Yay, it worked. So I should probably run all the unit tests in the executor. Make sure they didn't break an. Oh, it did break something. It broke a bunch of stuff. Oh, because all these tests don't bother creating a camera. Well, shoot. Well, I guess the right way to fix these would be to make a camera, wouldn't it? Like this. Camera. Done. Because these tests don't give a flying F. What is in the camera, as long as that there is one. All of these just... Okay, did I hit the same one twice? It's the line numbers are out of order. That's what it is. Then this one. Yeah, see, none of them have a camera. There we go. Cool. And test that too. Oh, you found it. Yes. So it wasn't colons at all. It was angle brackets. Thank you, Nui. 98 points. 2 more and you'll have 100 points. So there we go. Can someone explain this to me? And they're like, it's just characters from the Canadian Aboriginal syllabics block. OMG. Yeah. So like this is really just one word, one token, not two tokens with some syntax between them. That's great. Only a little surprised you don't alphabetize the component creations in your tests. Alphabetize the composition. Alphabetize like the names of the component types. I think I was just being lazy at the time and just made them all lowercase. I'm more into consistency than capitalization in like that what capitalization means. I mostly just want consistency. Methods, I usually just capitalize them out of habit. But if I was in a situation where like I was using an API where it was lowercase, I'd probably, if I were to add something to it, it would be lowercase just for consistency. You mean in order, like camera, caps? Oh, you mean sort them? Because I didn't care. It's because this is the important one for that test, and these are all the non-important ones, and so it just needs to be there. I didn't really care. So yeah, I'll toss out alphabetizing or sorting them if I don't care. Maybe that's just another sign of my laziness. Let's try this in the test environment. Hey there, 3D Extended. How are you doing? I'm doing well. Why C++? Mostly because of my background. I am very comfortable in C++ because I've been using it so long. It has a negative side though. Number one, I'm stuck in C++ 11 because old programmers are hard to teach new tricks. The other negative is that a lot of times I'll use C++ where if I started with a blank slate, it might have been easier and better in the long run not to use it. The pluses and minuses. And I only really use C++ in the backend server. So this is the output of that program that we're seeing. All of the front end of my game right here is done in JavaScript. So let's test this, right? So we go in here and we say, we've changed our terms of service, policy version 6 or 7 now. So next time I log in, it's going to say, oh, well, we've changed. And we're like, I don't want, oh, the tooltip's broken. I need to fix that. It should pop up a tooltip saying why you can't click that. Anyway, let's say I say, no, never mind. And then we try again. Another thing you might do is you might just hit reload, thinking, I want to bypass that somehow, right? And then you finally give up and you say, sure, I agree. Then, okay, cool, we fixed it. Do you think Python is a good programming language? I think Python's an excellent first programming language. In fact, I have that listed here on my notes. So that should bring you to here, I think. Or where did I put it? Overview? Advice on learning programming. I say what? Python. It's just an all-around good language, good first language to learn. I should probably just hide that so you can see the whole page. Plain JavaScript is also pretty nice to learn, and you can apply it pretty easily to a lot of jobs that require like web stuff. And then if you want something more lower level, I guess, C# or Java is what I'd recommend. And then C++, I've used it for many years. You should know the caveats. They're old. There are lots of quirks. It always is. It's not always clean. There are different versions of the language. It can be a pain. So I recommend one of these because they're newer and they're simpler in their syntax, and yet they can be applied. So like Python, you can apply it for machine learning because there's a lot of stuff in the machine learning community that's using Python these days. JavaScript, you can use it with the web. So C#, you can use it in Unity for game development. Java, you can do Android apps. So these are very applicable and yet don't require you to learn the old crud anymore. Do you have a note for every question? I try to. I am inspired by Adam13531, who is the master at doing that. He's got either a command or a note for everything. He even has an everything command, like I do. And that is totally stolen from Adam. What about Rust? Do I have a Rust command? No, I don't have a Rust command. I guess I should have a Rust command. Let's fix that. Adcom Rust. Raimu doesn't know Rust. Yes, Ramu should probably learn Rust. One day, he will. There we go. Oh, we should have a Lua command too, right? Hold on, before I add that, let me give you a point. Let me give some points out to you guys. Because these are good things to point out. Let's add a command for Lua. Ramu uses Lua to make it easy to change his game's server logic on the fly without expensive recompilation and redeployment. There we go. By the way, if you don't know, the Omnia Regna is actually the production server, and we're not looking at it there, but we can look at it here. So I have integrated into my server a chatbot that handles all my commands. It also echoes messages from VIPs and above in-game. And in the future, we'll probably do more. It also tracks points, so if I give people points, their points are held in my game. It sort of doubles as my database, so to speak. That was rhetorical? Yeah, I joke around with Rust because I get that question a lot. A lot. You would be surprised how many times people come into programming streams and ask about Rust. And I've heard that it's actually sort of a meme, but I don't know it. But I would like to know it, then I would actually maybe understand the meme a little bit more. And I probably did miss your question, 3D Extended. Let's see what the question was. You remember correctly, you have some reference on how to set up a new project using CMake. Could you help me setting up a new C++ project with unit test? Oh yeah, sure. That is the gtest command. So I made that YouTube video, and also if you look back far enough in my streams, you'll probably see me setting stuff up in CMake and VS Code. So yeah. Yeah, C++ is probably too much for a beginner, unless there's one important place or condition where you'd probably want to learn C++ is if you want to get a job in some shop that already has a huge C++ code base. Let's say that Epic was interviewing you to hire you to work on the Unreal Engine. Well, guess what? The Unreal Engine's in C++, so you'd probably want to know C++. Syntax looks a little weird sometimes just to read the book and watch some videos. Yeah, it's really weird because there are lots of different versions of it too. And thank you for that follow, by the way. Anyway, I think I'm done with this feature now. So we have it now, so if you create a new account, you have to click that for that to show up. Oh, there was one thing I needed to fix. We're supposed to see this tooltip when we log in and the number is changed since the last time we saw it. Wrong game. Here's the test version. I need to fix that tooltip, don't I? So now, if the version of the terms of service has changed, you'll get this pop-up. Oh, actually, there's two things. I just remembered a second thing. So I need to fix this tooltip. Let's do that now. But the other thing is, right now, if I hacked the client, I could actually move around in the game, even though I'm not allowed to. I need to fix that. I don't know how I missed your question earlier, 3D Extended. Oh, because it came in the exact same time as usual guy asking about Python, and I picked that one to answer, and I didn't get back. And laziness while writing tests, you don't think that comprehends? Well, it's Toulouse is that when I write tests, I'm fighting my lazy streak. What do you think about a machine programming language? There are lots of interpretations for that phrase, machine programming language. Do you mean machine language, or do you mean a language to program machines, or do you mean machines programming? Yeah, that could be interpreted a couple different ways. So, not sure what you meant. You learn C and then C++, so you know that pain? Yeah. Also, you could learn C++ 98, and then look at C++ 17 and be like, this is completely different. Okay, let me fix that pop-up. That pop-up is in the dialog that I made, the policy consent, policy change dialog. Here we go. So there was a tooltip, right? I think the problem is I am not using React tooltip correctly, and I need to use that. Wherever this is used, this thing. So I need an effect hook, actually. Needed that. So like maybe right here, and then I need to actually, I had ref and I wasn't using it, and I can remove CAPTCHA. Okay, let's try it out. Nice. You must agree to the terms of service and privacy policy to log in. Now you can agree, and oops, you can't agree anymore. And now you can agree. Cool. You learn C++ 99, then 11, then 17. Yeah, well, 14 is the same as 11 with a few little tweaks. So I've decided personally I'm going to jump from 11 to 17. I just need, because I'm such a lazy programmer, I need a whole bunch of reasons why, so that's why I've been collecting them. I have a to-do C++ 17. Here are some reasons that people have been giving me about why I should move to C++ 17. And I'm going to keep collecting them until I have no more excuses than to go learn it. And like I was saying earlier, I kind of don't want to learn it piecemeal. I want to learn it in 1 week, 2 week kind of like a study, so that I can sort of focus on it and learn it well, because that's how I learn better, is to just really concentrate on something. And I want to learn enough of C++ 17 so that if people in my stream or in other situations need help or want me to teach them, that I feel like I'm competent enough to at least teach someone else stuff and not just a few things and have to say, well, I don't really know the rest. Yeah, well, from what I've heard, C++ 14 is really just C++ 11 plus the things that they meant to put in there that they forgot to, or that they screwed up in 11. And the 14 to 17 is a much steeper change than 11 to 14. And soon we'll have to learn C++ 20 or whatever it is. Okay, so that's fixed. So the thing is, we have this flag now that I'm not using, that I need to use to prevent most client commands from being handled. And that is in the client record. It's this consented to latest policy. If we look where that's used, it's not going to be used in very many places outside of the unit tests. It's initialized to false. Here this is because it's also in messaging. There's where we set it. There's where we say if it has to be set for you to be logged in. Yeah, but that's all we do with it. So what I would like to do with it now is have it be a gate for most of these other messages. Like, for example, let's take an example. The coordinator impl, there's like a move command that you can do. Is it begin move? I can't remember what it is. Pick up, player, any of these things. Player input. Player input's an example. So, this function player input check is supposed to see, are you allowed to move the player? Right now, the only requirement is you have to be logged in. So I would like to also add a requirement that you have to have agreed to the terms of service. But the thing is that there are a lot of these commands, and I'm wondering if I can do it in the boilerplate that I made for this. So this is register client message that registers this check in the first place, but it goes through this make pre-command check thing, and also this register client message is its own little thing that, for example, where is the check done? It's interesting. I don't see where oh, is that because there's 2 variants of this? Yeah. So this pre-command check, right? So if it returns false, we drop the message. Otherwise, if we're the leader of the cluster, we create and append the command. Otherwise, we send a message to the leader to say, please do that. It might make sense to just build in right before pre-command check that, hey, you gotta be logged in. And you have to agree to the terms of service. So what if I just build it into this thing? I could do that by updating my evil macros, I think. Or make a variant of this? What if we made a variant of this? We'll make the original one require it, actually. What if I just build it into here? Like another argument called true or false. Or maybe I just, I don't know. What does pre-command check actually do? Oh, it's a template that just forwards. It's really just a wrapper for turning right. What is it actually doing? It's returning a function object that calls a method of an object. That's what it is. There's probably a nifty C++ way to do that I don't know. But that's not important right now. I actually don't think it goes there. I think it goes here if I say true. And here if I say false. And I make register client command have an extra argument. The one that takes a pre-command check. Bool, player must be logged in and consented, and must be logged in and consent, and must consent to latest policies. So that's too long. So how to make it shorter? This is the trouble I have. Trouble with variable names, making them short and concise, but clear. How about requires fully logged in? There we go. I like that. This indicates whether or not the server requires the client to have successfully authenticated as a player and consented to the latest versions of the game's terms of service and privacy policy in order to process this message. I like it. Okay, so do I need it there? That's the question. This one is used where? There's like an alternative, I think. Is it that one? Yeah, where is that used? Because this one, these are both pre-command checks, so... What's... Oh, no. Oh, this is because I made a copy of it, and I should make this reflect that. Because this is the exception rather than the rule. Register client message, login not required. Full login not required. Again, we need that for stuff like submitting the consent, right? Anyway, I have two versions of this, but I don't see this one ever used. Does one call the other? Is that what I'm not seeing? Maybe that's it. Yeah, okay, that's what it is. One calls the other. So if that one has that, we don't need to modify the other one, right? I just need to capture it. And again, because when we get to this point, we would just put it in here. If we do that, and then we can kind of steal from what I had out here somewhere, like I don't know, player and where's the player input? I forget. player input check. Here, this stuff. So I could just put that right in the boilerplate. If client.player_id is 0, then hang up, right? The only problem is impl has no there's no context here. How would I get that? Actually we're capturing this, so that means I don't need the impl. There we go. And yep, so this is exactly what, except for this used to be customized for every message, so maybe I need to make it more generic. How about, we'll just make this more generic. Unauthorized command. Unauthorized message received. Unless, do I have access to the messages type? Oh, I could actually put the messages type in there. We can just do it that way. And so we'll just do some fancy dancy string formatting here. System abstractions printf. It's my C++ printf. And we'll get the messages type as a string, and then we'll have to get it as a C string to work with sprintf, which just uses vsprintf, which does all that garbage, but ultimately it's using vsnprintf, which is from standard lib, I think. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but so it's a C function, so it needs a C string. I wonder if that'll cause some tests to fail because they're sensitive on what that message is, actually. Anyway, now here's our other opportunity. If not client dot consented to latest policy return. And we don't need a false there, do we? Just for return. This, we hang up on them because, actually I should hang up on them either way. Yeah, because either way means that the client is either buggy or been hacked. So if they haven't authenticated or they haven't consented, then do that. There we go. And I can combine those two ifs, can't I? With an and. Boom. If requires fully logged in, and they're either not logged in or haven't consented to the latest policy, hang up on them and return. Sounds good to me. Question is, did I make a unit test for this? I think the answer is no. I just kind of skipped to it because I'm tired. What would be the check for this? I guess I should just make a unit test then. We can do that. I'll just steal from another unit test that does something similar. Like, yeah, player input's a good one. Let's just search for that. Player input. There we go. So here's player input start moving, right? So let's have a variant of this where we ask them to start moving, but hey, they haven't consented to the terms of service. We should hang up on them, right? Add test user. And then we connect here. Right, so the way to make this work, I believe, is I have to change the start. I have to change the login to a start login. The way I was testing it here. Was it not auth? It was auth player CPP. Start login. Here it is, where this is false, because that argument was consented to latest policy, right? So if I replace this login with that, how do I get that? That's probably available here. Yeah, it's that. And we're already getting it there, so I can just put that here and use that variable. There we go. Cool. So this means that they are player input start moving when no consent, no policy consent given. So what do we expect? Before, we expected it to tell the entity component system that we're moving. So now we should expect it to just hang up, right? Yeah, what does hang up actually do? I always forget this stuff. Calls hang up client. It calls logout player. Oh, it's actually going to append either a logout command or a this announce current players because this client logged out disconnects the client from the player records. This will say, hey, we don't have this client anymore. We don't have this player connected anymore. So I will expect a command. It'll be a logout command. Cool. I'll probably find similar. Let me go back. What did I do? I don't know what I did. I'm hitting the wrong keys. Does this button still work? Yeah, that button still works. That's my emergency mute. Oh, I missed a bunch of chat. Sorry about that. What's the average grade in a computer science major? C++. Good one. C++ 17 is a freaking monster, and yes, C++ 20 comes soon. Yeah. And there's less than 50 changes in C++ 14. That, yep, sounds right. All right. Yes, here we are. I want to put in this assert, one of the asserts that I had. There were other test cases I had for, what were they called? If you do the wrong thing, so it would be where messaging, maybe? Let's look here. Let's like hang up. That's daily report file. That's not right. That's not it. How about moderation? Kick player. Here we go. We want to kick them. So I want the same thing if they're kicked. Okay, but this isn't exactly what would happen, right? We're going to do it through the cluster, so. Oh, hey there, Ramy. Wowie. How are you doing, Mr. Ramy? Okay, I'm not sure where I put this stuff. Oh, DOS mitigation. Here we go. Oh, no, it wasn't here either, was it? You know what would be easier to find is look for logout in the tests. That should help. Not in Twitch. In here, maybe. Nope. No, that's explicit logout. What's this one? Oh, here we go. Inactivity timeout. So yeah, here we go. Let's pick this one up. Yeah. But we don't actually send them a message. We just disconnect them. Oh no. A wisdom tooth chipped off. I hope it's a wisdom tooth. Else it's a molar. Yeah. Well, it happens. Sometimes you lose pieces of teeth. The good news is modern dentistry, they can give you a synthetic tooth replacement. So it could be worse. But I'm sorry to hear that. That sucks. I hope it's not too painful. I think the only thing I'm really gonna care about is that all of this is done. So that's what I want here. That results in a logout. Like so. Right. And do I care about this stuff? I don't really. I guess so. We can keep it like that. Well, hey there, Enjoy to Live. How are you doing? Let's see if this works. It doesn't. Because there are 2 extra commands? Really? Oh, because I didn't capture this in the right spot. That can't be const, actually. So we need to grab it again after there. There we go. Because there's the login command that was in the middle there. And we built and we run. Oh, it actually hangs up immediately? I guess that makes sense. And there's no clear token. Okay, yeah, so we don't... Actually, I was looking at that line thinking, I don't think that matters. Yeah, this should be empty. So we can just say expect true. Client's empty. And call it a day, right? So a logout command gets appended to the journal and the client is disconnected. And this is all if they try to move and they have not agreed to the... okay, chat is on top of that, but... How do I hide that? This flag means simulate that the player logged in but has not agreed to the terms of service. They haven't agreed yet, and instead they somehow hack in a message to move around in the world. We should kick them out of the game. That's what this test is for. Cool. That worked. Now let me run, because I might have broken a bunch of stuff, let me run everything else in this suite. Okay, yeah, I think I might have broken some things. And it's interesting, it didn't destroy... Oh, did I remove that command? I might have removed that command a while ago and just haven't run this test in a long time. Yeah, I think these are old commands. I think I removed these. Yeah, let me look at those later. I think those aren't supposed to be there anymore. Let's run another suite. I'm having a great time, yeah? So your tooth doesn't hurt at all, which is nice. Okay, it's just annoying. Oh, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, this is game dev. You want to see my game? It's very early stages and I'm doing my own engine, so it's not as fancy looking yet. And it'll probably take me longer. But this is what it looks like. This is the test environment, and here is the production environment. And I don't think anyone is actually playing right now, but we can go search around. Here's a little starter town. The graphics, it's all drawn by me, and I'm not an artist, so that's why the art is kind of poor. There's kind of a lag there. Anyway, here's the sewers underneath the town where we have slimes wandering around. And there's a bit of a lag. A bit of a lag on the server today. Yeah, anyway. I recently added this feature where we can have obstacles blocking sight and vision, and also there can be dark areas in the game. So if I go into this little spot here, this area is supposed to be dark, and then we have other things in the engine I'm working on, like here's light that's emitted from this lava, and it also has particle effects. And I haven't finished working on this stuff. There's still some bugs, but and up here, this teleports me to an area where there's a lighting test. I like to kind of show this. There are 2 aspects of the lighting system. There is the the fact that lights illuminate areas outside your normal vision range. And there's also the fact that there's collision between light and vision. So if I take that light and I kind of move it behind this wall, you can kind of see, can't see the light, but you can see that it's lighting areas because this wall is blocking it. And because the wall is so far away, we can't really see all of the wall until like I move towards it, right? And then I'm like, oh, there's a wall there. That's why I can't see there, right? So yeah. For some reason, this seems slower today. Like, that's really slow. I wonder if my Chrome is like giving something wrong with Chrome. I'm using Chrome for running the front end of my game. So the front end of the game is all in JavaScript, using Phaser.js for the graphics, and then everything else, it's just a React app. So that's a Facebook framework for making web apps. And then the back end of the game is all in C++ with Lua scripting, and there's WebSocket and exchanges between. So that's what you're seeing me work on when I'm looking at code like this, where we have, not here, but where I was back in here. So, for example, the text message with this JSON object encoded is what's sent over a WebSocket whenever you tell the game, hey, I want to move, or I want to stop moving. And that's between the front end in JavaScript and the back end in C++. And the back end, all of the game logic is very tightly controlled through an entity component system and a journal of commands. Then each commands are for changing anything in the game. Out of curiosity, what JSON framework? I made my own. JSON is actually pretty simple. There are lots of libraries out there. I think, let me see if I can remember the name of it. Is it Newman? No, N. Lohman. JSON. I'd recommend using this guy's library. This one is awesome. This is JSON for modern C++. His goal, which I try to match, is to make it so that you can do stuff like that, and it just compile, like it looks like you're doing JSON in C++, and it just works. I ended up making my own, which you can find on my GitHub. I do stuff by myself because I enjoy it, and also I think I learn better doing deep dives into the design of things. So also it's kind of entertaining, maybe educational, to show people how other things are made. So like my JSON library I wrote myself, and it kind of looks like this. So there's, when you're encoding, there's different options. These are the different kinds of values you can have in JSON. There's the normal, you can construct from copies, you can assign, and here are all the different constructors from different values. So if I go into any one of these, let's do the string one. We're just recording that it is a string, and then this string value is in a union. And this is how you do it in C. If you have like a container for something of various types, you would have a union, and then you'd pick which thing in the union you're using based off of some other variable. So that's just all I did. And most of the work that you do have to do in JSON is the parsing. So that is, yeah, right down here. It looks really horrible because I never refactored it, but when you're encoding, you're turning things from the JSON structures into strings, and when you're decoding or from encoding, you're doing the opposite. So it's a bit messy. Some things are simple, like if it's literally the string true, then it is a Boolean, and the value is true. Other things are harder, so like if it looks like a number, but it has plus dot E or capital E, it's probably floating point, otherwise it's probably an integer. And that's if you haven't matched anything else, right? If it didn't start with a double quote. If it did, it was a string. If it started with a curly brace, it was an object. If it's a bracket, it's an array. Stuff like that. So yeah, the whole JSON library, my whole JSON library is just 1,500 lines of code. It's not as advanced or as cool as N. Lohman's. Definitely recommend this library over mine. I only made my own because I like it. Like making my stuff myself. Yeah. All right, back to this. Oh, actually, we wanted. I was done, right? Because we confirmed that the tests were. I didn't break any tests. No. Oops. Okay, so there might still be a problem here. Oh, right. If a GM is connected, they will have an ID of 0, won't they? Okay, so I need to fix that. That's a bug. So that's here. Fully requires login and not an admin, right? Is admin. Yeah, there we go. Otherwise, I'm going to get kicked out of my game doing anything as a GM. There we go. Fixed. You have functions to encode and decode vec3s, but it's kind of cumbersome to use and isn't as clean as the built-in types. Well, if you wanted to make it uncumbersome to use and clean, you could just iterate, like, just do little tight, like, not tight, but you can do little improvements here and there, refactoring, right? Until you make it nicer. Hey there, Cthulhu. I actually did finish all of the today stuff. We're tracking player consent to the game's terms of service. Let me show you what that looks like. Let me, we'll do this at the same time as I'm testing to make sure I didn't break anything. We're going to start with the latest version of the code and I'll demonstrate this feature. So this is, in the end, it's a silly little legal thing that's not really game content, but I think it is required if you're going to have anything online. Any kind of service or website, you should do two things. You should have terms of service and privacy policy, and you should do the right thing about it. If you change it, you should let your users know. You should make sure they understand that they're agreeing to it by using your service, so you kind of make sure that they click that checkbox and you give them every opportunity to get the information that they need. And that's what we're doing today. So I added this field here. Let's say I bump the version of my privacy policy, right? Now, the next time I log in, it's going to say, that's your cue. Oh, it didn't work. Wait a minute. Did I break it? I think I broke it. Oh, the GM got disconnected. Okay, everything's broken. Well, shoot. That's interesting. Did I not? Huh. Would I see problems in other places like auth admin? Aha. There we go. Yep, we got hung up on why. Auth response? What does auth response do? Client message, yeah, so it, oh yeah, it will require an identity. Okay, so this, oh, I forgot to do this step. I made this full login not required, and that was supposed to be the exception. So I need to go through all of these and see which ones don't require login. Change password, change profile, chat, clear password. All of these require it. I think set password didn't though. Yeah, set password, because you could log in with that by resetting your password. So we'll let it handle that. And these are already special ones, so that's fine. That's a special one. This one should also not be required. You can always log out. And this one too. You shouldn't require consent to give your consent. All right. Sorry, Cthulhu. I broke stuff, so I can't. There's a delay in showing you what I did. Hopefully, I fixed it though. Yay! I wonder if that's what caused these to break. Aha! We figured it out. That's what broke those tests as well. Okay. I'm glad. See, this is why unit tests are worth it. You should always trust your unit tests until you find that they're broken because of a bug in your unit tests. If they fail, it's probably a sign that you messed something up. Welcome to this. This is just authentic experience. You can see me screw up and then try to fix it, and then when I finally fix it, I can actually show you what I was doing. Yeah, so what I'm doing here is I restarted the whole cluster. So the game runs in multiple servers where one server does all the work and the other servers are just backups. Everything that the main leader server does, it replicates or it tells the other servers what it's doing, so that at any moment, if the leader server were to crash, one of the follower servers could pick up and become the leader of the cluster and continue. It's called fault tolerance, and we're using the Raft consensus algorithm. And hey there, Jelmega, how are you doing? So now I should be able to reset that and get in as the GM now. Please? No? Yes. It just took a while. Yay. It's just slow. Who knows why? Right, so now I should be able to increment the policy version to 9. Yeah, so it changed. I wanted to check the back end to see it did change. So now when we reload, you can imagine like maybe a day or two has passed and we're logging into the game since the terms of service changed. We'll get confronted with this. And there's no way around it. If you refresh, if you log out and log back in, you'll be confronted with this because the game remembers that you agreed to the terms of service version 8, but now we're on version 9. So it's like you really should read them again, and we give the links to them. We expect that we provided you a way to read it. I could probably make this more convenient by saying, since it's changed, here are the differences, but right now we're just keeping it simple. You have to click it, and then you agree, and now you're in the game. And now when you reload, you always get back in. For some reason, it's really slow right now, though. Makes me suspicious that I broke something. You know, until I bump that number again, and then we're back in the same boat. We've changed the policy version, and you got to consent again. And you can always say, well, I don't like the new terms of service clause you added where you say that we own your soul. So I'm just going to not click that, and instead I'm just going to go. And you can always do that at any time. Good to see your parents again after almost 2 months. So did they come to visit you, or did you go back home? You've also learned to always lock your PC at work. I learned maybe halfway into my last job to lock my office when I started hearing about people who would just leave their door open, get stuff stolen out of their office, and I'm like, there's theft at work? Yeah, it happens. Lock your stuff. Yes. Hello. I'm always suspicious about new accounts. I hope you're a nice person too. All right, I'm not gonna tolerate that one. So anyway, that's the feature I worked on today, and let me see if did I miss anything. All right, I had these notes here, and I was going to add this. I don't know if I want. Do I have enough time to do that now? Actually, I think I'm going to do this later. I think I actually might call the stream early because this is very, very optional, and this is all the stuff I wanted to do today, and I got it done. One time the studio head saw an unlocked PC and send a marriage proposal to someone else using the person's mail. Oof. Yeah. Not only lock your PC, but make sure no one can impersonate you in email. I had someone who left their SSH key on a shared workstation once. So you know what I did with it? I used it to log in as him and sent him an email to himself saying, you shouldn't leave your SSH key lying around. And then I told him about it and said, like, this is what you did wrong. This is why you got that weird email from yourself saying that you shouldn't do that. And, you know, you should be grateful that, like, it wasn't a real attacker who would just, like, impersonate you. It's like leaving your password written down on a sticky note on your office door or something. Yeah, changes your background, put some stuff on your screen. Yeah, all sorts of bad things could happen. Okay, so I think I'm done today. and I'm not actually sure what I'm going to do next week, but it's the weekend, right? So I'll have all weekend to think about it. So we're going to end the stream here. I hope you guys had a great time, and we're going to go rate someone else. Actually, if Adam's still going, I think we're going to rate him because he is only 4 days away from launching his game. So if you haven't seen Adam before, this will be a great introduction. There's a lot of hype going on with his stream right now because he's launching his game he's been working on for many years, and I get a lot of inspiration from him, so we're going to go rate him. Still weird. Studio Head is 2 levels below the big boss. Huh. Cool. So you're close to the bigwigs. Nice. All right. I hardly ever get to rate Adam because usually he's done streaming by the time I'm done, like way before. But this is one of those rare days where he's streaming a long day, so we're going to rate him. Yeah, I get it. Well, thank you all for watching today, and I hope you have an awesome weekend. And I'll see you next week, okay? Take care. Bye.